Chapter 31, Life 6. My intent clashed with that of my disciples. For a while we glared at each other, exchanging volleys of intent in that silence. Manho took a step forward. "Master, are you going to break your promise with us?" "Promise?" "Yes. You clearly promised that once we destroyed all of Mackley clan's territories, we would strike together at the Imperial Palace. You told us to survive for that. But why are you changing your words now, telling us to go back?" Other disciples, besides Manho, also emitted fierce intent as they joined in. "That's right. Why do you make a promise with us and then prevent us from fulfilling it? We are trying to survive to keep our promise. We all thought it didn't matter if we died and endured hell-like training, so why?" I examined the children's intents. They were of an indescribable color, but generally their colors were casting a dark blue light. Sorrow. My disciples were all crying together. You too are grieving over the deaths of comrades, of friends. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry and ashamed as a master. As a master, I let my disciple die. My heart aches with regret. But that's why I couldn't back down anymore. I will keep my promise. The day you can truly defeat me, I'll join you to strike at the Imperial Palace. As soon as I finished speaking, Khwa lunged at me with a dagger. "Surround him." With that, Manho shouted in a booming voice, and the disciples quickly formed the transcending cultivation formation around me, a formation created to counter cultivators. Peak experts in the martial world cannot properly sense the intent of cultivators from inside their domain. Conversely, cultivators can easily see through the movements of peak experts, a formation created to mitigate the extreme disparity between martial artists and cultivators. Even if a cultivator can observe actions within, and even if we can't predict the cultivator's movements, the transcending cultivation formation is capable of completely grinding down anyone trapped within. Basically, since the transcending cultivation formation is infused with the insights of the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, the flow of the formation itself disrupts the flow of consciousness. Even if I execute the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and escape their perception, it's not easy to escape from the formation. The record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts is essentially about cutting off the opponent's consciousness and escaping from their perception. It's not a technique for sudden spatial movement. It is a formation designed to counter cultivators, regardless of whether the opponent's actions can be predicted or not. Whether or not the opponent escapes perception, anyone trapped in the formation will be shredded. That's the transcending cultivation formation. Despite the loss of 34 members, the disciples linked their intents well, filling the gaps and pressuring me. Whoosh! The disciples surrounding me in a circle started to close in, rotating around me. Multiple human barriers surround me, rotating in different directions to tighten the formation. Within this formation, numerous flows of intent intertwined. The proficiency of the transcending cultivation formation among the disciples has significantly increased. The movement of the disciples themselves disrupts the direction of intent, making it difficult to discern whose intent belongs to whom. With the strange optical illusions caused by the formation, I couldn't read their movements. But this is not enough. It's certainly a formation that can counter cultivators. Even a martial artist of the 3 flowers gather at the summit would be shredded by this formation. However, I am nearing the extreme limit of 3 flowers. I am on the verge of achieving the ultimate realm of 5 energies converging at the origin. Recently, I have also understood the superior counterparts of the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, the record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, and gazing martial arts, and exceeding martial arts scripture. Are you saying with just these skills you won't listen to me? What confidence do you have? As my concentration reached its peak, I entered the world of intent, seeing thousands of colors. Entering that spectrum of colors, I assimilated my disciples' intents with my own through the enlightenment of 3 flowers, record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Not just cutting off consciousness and intent, as in record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, but developing the enlightenment of 3 flowers to its extreme, a martial art that completely dives into the opponent's movements. My sword pierces through the rapidly rotating transcending cultivation formation of intents. Although a distinctly different intent intervened, the disciples didn't feel anything unusual until my sword energy completely mingled within the formation. If even one of them was at the level of a mature mid-peak master, they would have felt something. But their growth was hindered by the resentful spirits of their families entwined in their upper dantians. Whoosh! Without hesitation, I dove into the flow of the formation, swinging my sword gang towards it. Boom, dust scattered, the ground shook. Ugh! Block it! Severing mountain swordsmanship, layered mountains, the sword gang split into thousands of strands, scattering in all directions. Even when split, it was still sword gang. It was a different dimension from just splitting sword energy. Boom! Their initial actions, designed to nullify sword energy, now scattered in all directions, annihilating the formation. You can't stop me. Unless you sever that obsession, release your family's resentful spirits, and realize intent. Boom! The transcending cultivation formation collapsed. Wasn't avenging your families against their murderers your goal? If you want to become stronger, first sever your attachments. Flash. I executed the mountain and valley transformation to shake the terrain, completely breaking the formation and scattered paralysis powder. The disciples, having used up all their poison and antidote during the territory raids, could not resist my paralysis powder and all fell. The disciple who used the Langya staff, named Jayu-san, looked at me and said, "How can I sever this? How can I sever the voices of my family? You don't understand us." I couldn't respond. All I could do was forcibly drag my fallen disciples away. That was all I could do. "I am a poor master, I am sorry. Let's go. I'll help you become stronger. More." "Where do you think you're going? I waited for you to finish making graves for mortals, but suddenly you're fighting amongst yourselves. This is why I despise martial artists." The overseer of the assassination squad, the old man, clicked his tongue and interrupted me, descending on a flying artifact. "From what I hear, you're talking nonsense. What right do you have to take away the assassination squad? I acknowledge you're a good martial arts instructor, but I can't allow the detachment of the squad in this situation. What use will my weak disciples, who haven't even reached 3 flowers, be in the upcoming battles? From now on, those who haven't reached 3 flowers will be useless. Quality will become more important than quantity. They're not useless just because they're not important." The Mackley clan has started preparing. Most of the cultivators in the remaining territories are in the mid to late stages of Kai refining. My disciples are no longer useful against them. So you admit that you've been insufficient in your training. That's right. Since I've been insufficient, I'll take the blame and retrain my disciples to be useful. Please allow me this. Squirm veins bulged slightly on the forehead of the old man. He raised his spiritual energy with an annoyed expression. I hastily retreated out of his range, ready to draw my sword at any moment. Constantly talking nonsense and trying to detach the squad. Are you in your right mind? The secret battle between the Jin and Mackley is justified due to the high proportion of mortals. If a large number of mortals suddenly detach in such a situation, it only gives the Mackley clan's upper class a reason to intervene. Even if my inadequate disciples leave, the forces brought by Sir Kim. Enough with this nonsense, for disobedience. Vroom's spiritual energy gathered in the old man's hand. That's when it happened. Crack, a strong hand silently grabbed the old man's arm. It was Kim Young-hoon. "When did you enter my consciousness?" Look here, Sir Jin." Kim Young-hoon tightened his grip on the old man's arm, smiling. The old man's arm lost blood circulation, turning pale as his energy scattered. "Seo, my brother, is from my hometown. The crimes of a fellow townsman are my crimes too, so please punish me as well." Eek. The overseer old man strained to escape from Kim Young-hoon's grip, and his other hand seemed to cast some spell. However, the flow of energy around Kim Young-hoon sliced and erased all the old man's spells. After a while of struggling, the overseer old man, with a flushed face, shouted, Fine, fine. I'll overlook the disobedience. Just let go of my arm. Hum. Only then did Kim Young-hoon release the old man's arm, and the old man, sweating, began to restore energy to his arm. I may overlook it, but the clan elders won't let you just leave. What I said isn't just my personal opinion. These kids are more than just a force, they're a justification. Whether they're effective or not, they must be deployed in battle. Then I have a request, I said, looking at my disciples. My disciples have forcibly awakened their talents and reached the pinnacle realm. Somehow, I have managed to stabilize them there with my training. Yet to transcend beyond this point, they need to realize intent and reach the realm of Kai Silk. However, as long as the resentful spirits of their relatives linger in their upper dantions, they cannot progress further. So, I know you're the one who bestowed the resentful spirits on them. Please help their spirits ascend. At this point, it's just a limitation for my disciples. You want to detach the spirits? The overseer old man, who was scanning my disciples' upper dantions, clicked his tongue and spoke. Sorry, but it can't be done. Even if I try to undo the spell, it won't work unless these kids want to let go of their families. There are only two ways to undo it now. Either a core formation elder forcibly removes the spirits, or the disciples themselves let them go. Now that I think about it, there's another way. If these kids die, the spell will be undone automatically. You knew all this, didn't you? The old man looked at me with half-closed eyes and asked. Did I know? I smiled bitterly and nodded. Yes, it was a question grasping at pointless hope. Slowly, as the paralysis began to wear off, my disciples started speaking. Just who? Thinks they can separate me from my family. It can't be done. Inadequate skills can be improved by accumulating more battle experience. Without exception. None of them wanted to let go of their families, nobody. The overseer old man, looking at my disciples, turned to me with a mocking tone. The so-called master doesn't even know who he's teaching. Do these kids seem alive to you? All of these kids have already resigned to death. Your disciples are alive but not living. They are the dead, obsessed with revenge. Fine, I'll help a little. Whoosh. As the old man formed a spell, a green light burst from his grasp and seeped into the minds of the remaining disciples. It's the Spirit Ascension spell. If your disciples succeed in letting go of their attachments to their families and undo the spell, their families' spirits will naturally ascend. Yes, if your disciples let go of their attachments. Not even knowing who you're teaching and giving such ridiculous orders. Both the clan elders and your disciples themselves don't want to withdraw from the upcoming battles. Stop clinging to pointless delusions and lead the troops properly. After finishing, the overseer old man gave Kim Young-hoon a brief glare, muttered something about mortal origins, and flew away on his flying artifact. I clenched my teeth and looked up at the sky. There was nothing I could do. Kim Hyung, I wonder if relying on the power of the Jin clan was the right thing to do. I have so many doubts. Me too. What should we do? What should I do? He sighed softly. There's no choice. The Jin clan may not be good, but the cultivators of Mackley are worst. We have to choose such an option. I clenched my teeth, fed my fallen disciples the antidote, and helped them up. Then we had no choice but to gather and head to the next battlefield. It was what everyone wanted except me. Half a year passed. Today, another fierce battle ended, and I roamed the territories of the Mackley clan, collecting the bodies of the victims and my disciples. Recently, it seems your hair has been turning white more and more. Are you okay? Kim Young-hoon, who was helping me collect the bodies, looked at me with a pitiful expression and asked. Lately, I have been aging rapidly. Until now, I hadn't aged much due to consuming many health-related medicine. However, my hair has been turning white at an alarming rate. I'm fine. Don't overdo it. Kim Young-hoon looked at me with pitying eyes and then went off to collect other bodies. Among the ruins of the destroyed Mackley territory, I found the body of my disciple, Jae-gu. His poison blade, a large sword always well-maintained, reflected my face cleanly even after his death. My eyes were bloodshot, with dark circles underneath. My lips were dry, and my hair was a mess of white and gray. Once again, I pulled the body of a dead disciple from the debris. Because of my weakness, I couldn't save my disciple today. Why? I screamed towards the sky. Why is this happening to me? Why? I screamed until my throat was sore. Why did I receive such talent? Why must I still remain in the state of 3 flowers? Why? Why can't I still enter 5 energies? Why am I? I roared, gripping the earth. The imprint of my hand was embedded in the ground. Why? Am I powerless to do anything? I knew it wasn't the fault of the heavens. It was all my fault, if only I had tried a little harder. If I had trained even a bit more desperately, even if it meant my brain might explode if I had aspired for a higher realm. Yes, if I had been just a little stronger, it would have been resolved. Please, give me talent. Please, give me strength. I gritted my teeth and howled. Why am I still, after doing this much, so powerless? I regretted it. Why did I stupidly put my disciples in such a place? I should have opposed even at the risk of my life. No, why did I teach these kids? Even if I had to be chased away, I shouldn't have taken them in. No. Why did I even come to this place and form a bond? Yes, I shouldn't have joined the Jinn clan to stop the evil deeds of the Mackley clan. The disciples I taught out of guilt had become a part of my life. Every time these children died, it felt like my flesh was being carved away. The bodies have been collected, Master. Any survivors? Man-Ho, with tearful eyes in front of Jaizgu's body, came to me, clenching his teeth to report. 314 are left. All right, let's go. I staggered, carrying the body of my disciple, and headed to the burial site. I buried my disciples in a sunny place and recited the rites led by Kim Young-hoon. The ritual of soul consolation, mastered by Kim Young-hoon, seeped in, and the spirits of the victims ascended. Kim Young-hoon also recited the rites for my disciples' bodies. From the graves of the mortals he recited for, small light orbs rose and scattered into the air. We silently watched the scene. Then it happened. Ha ha ha, finally the permission has been granted. One of the Kai building cultivators from the Jinn clan, who had been fighting with us, exclaimed with a face full of joy. In his hand was a piece of communication paper. Everyone, gather. The conversation between the elders of our main house and the upper ranks of Mackley is over. He exclaimed with a joyful expression, looking around us. The negotiation is over. They say if the Jinn clan accepts only the participation of mortals and Kai refining cultivators, they will allow a challenge to replace the Yangyuo imperial family. Ooh. Finally, the elders have succeeded in the negotiation. Indeed, the elders are commendable. The eyes of the Jinn clan cultivators shone with excitement, and so did the eyes of my disciples and the martial artists under Kim Young-hoon's command. However, Kim Young-hoon and I each wore a bitter smile. Negotiation. The hundreds of lives that had been lost were merely tools for negotiation in the upper echelons of the cultivator clans. Kim Young-hoon seemed to feel the same way. As he was scoffing, he questioned the Kai building cultivator. So, you're saying that by allowing a challenge, we can challenge the Yangyuo imperial family, a branch family of the Mackley clan? That's right. Originally, if we attacked the imperial family on a large scale, it would be considered a challenge to the Mackley clan, and we would have to wage a full-scale war. But them accepting the challenge means we can attack the Mackley imperial family with a large army without a full-scale war. So even the replacement of the imperial family is just a disappearance of a branch family. From his tone, it seemed like the Mackley clan considered Yangyuo as just a subordinate force, and that their replacement was within acceptable limits. However, they won't just obediently allow the change of the imperial lineage. They only permit a challenge, and even then, as mentioned earlier, our side can no longer involve Kai-building cultivators. Even the Jinn clan's Kai-building cultivator frowned. The Mackley clan allows all cultivators directly related to the imperial family to participate. The former emperors of Yangyuo, especially. You're talking about the founding emperor? Yes, the Yangyuo founding emperor Mackley Wangshan. While all former emperors were low-level Kai refining, he was a highly talented late-stage Kai refining cultivator when he ascended to the throne. And He stepped down from the throne and ascended as a Kai-building cultivator. A shadow fell on the faces of the Jin clan cultivators. That means, yes, while we can only challenge them with mortals and Kai refining, they have Makli Wangshan, a Kai-building cultivator on their side. Those damn Makli clan dogs. How can Kai refining defeat Kai building? However, the Jin clan's Kai building cultivator, who was briefly irritated, smiled. But don't worry, we have this guy. He approached Kim Young-hoon and patted his shoulder. This young martial artist has the power of a Kai building cultivator. Your mission is crucial. After this mission, the elders of our clan have decided to marry you into a higher family and take you as a son-in-law of the Jin clan. Consider it an honor. Marriage. Kim Young-hoon grimaced as if remembering something. Well, let's talk about that later. Does the Makli clan know my power is at the Kai building level? Isn't there something else they're going to say later? At his words, the Jin clan's Kai building cultivator grinned. Even if you recently started learning this and that about cultivation, your cultivation is clearly at Kai refining 3rd or 4th star. Their set limit was clearly up to 14th star Kai refining, and you fit within that standard. What can they do even if they try to nitpick? He laughed, seemingly in a good mood. Although we can't help you, with your skills, you should be able to handle Makli Wangshan. You don't even need to kill him. Just holding him off is enough, the explanation continued. Regardless of the legitimacy of the Yongyuo imperial family, if we successfully assassinate the current emperor Makli Yung and his son Makli Hyun, it will be the victory of the Jin clan. All former emperors were talentless and couldn't ascend to Kai building and hence died. While you hold off Makli Wangshan, Kai refining cultivators and the mortals will only have to kill Makli Yung and Makli Hyun, and the Jin clan can reclaim this country, the Kai building cultivator excitedly announced. The Jin clan can restore its name as the imperial family. It seems this cultivator was originally a descendant of the Jin imperial lineage, fervently desiring to reclaim the Yongyuo imperial lineage, even if it is a subordinate force of the cultivator clans. An imperial family is no light matter. He passionately spoke of the glory of the Jin clan reclaiming the imperial lineage for some time. Then, with an excited expression, he flew away with the other Jin clan cultivators on a flying artifact. We left the territory, and I quietly looked at my disciples who had been listening attentively to the Kai building cultivator's words. It's time to fulfill our promise. Though the intents of the disciples were varied, they all had determined expressions. However, I clenched my teeth and made the same request I had made when they first went into battle. Please survive. And their response was the same as before. I'm sorry, Master. I ask you as your master, please survive. Now I had no reason to stop them. I had promised them with my own mouth to join them in revenge if they survived. You all must have lived so far to avenge your families, and you must have no hesitation in dying. But what about those who will be left behind? Why don't you think about my feelings? I'm sorry. Their eyes were filled with dark blue intent. It's not that we don't know Master's feelings, but, Master, you don't understand. Your feelings? Yoon Hyun doesn't understand your feelings. Yoon Hyun. Just then, Kim Young-hoon, who had been watching our conversation, approached me. These ungrateful brats. Do you know what your master has been feeling while saying such harsh words? A massive surge of energy burst from him. Under his pressure, all my disciples fell to the ground. Cough. Kyug. Koog. Do you not know what Seo Yoon Hyun has been through? Haven't you heard from him? He showed an angry expression and growled. Your friends who died in the past, their resentful spirits are still not fully appeased. So, Seo Yoon Hyun asked me to let their spirits possess him. It's because of that my brother is getting old, and yet you dare to speak such nonsense, you insolent ones. How can you? While speaking, Kim Young-hoon read the intents of my disciples, and noticing something strange, turned to look at me sharply. Did you not tell anything to your disciples? Foolish one, stupid one, a stupid master with stupid disciples. He beat his chest in frustration. Listen, all of you. Your master, in order to fulfill your unfulfilled wishes even in death, did the same foolish thing as you. Despite not being related by blood, he accepted the resentful spirits of your friends into his body and has been fighting against the cultivators with them. The revelation from Kim Young-hoon shocked the faces of the children. Didn't you feel anything strange seeing your master aging so rapidly? His life was drastically shortened because he was forced to accept more than 200 vengeful spirits not related by blood to fulfill your stubborn and insolent wishes. Did you not realize how your master has been feeling? He shouted with great anger. These foolish, insolent, and selfish brats. Are only your grievances important? Don't you care about your master's feelings? Stop it, Hyung-nim. Such a foolish and frustrating man. Why did you bear it all alone? Did you think you'd be praised for it? Did you expect these foolish and selfish brats to support you? I accepted your request considering your relationship with your disciples. But what is this? You've kept it to yourself all this time without saying a word. This? Overwhelmed, Kim Young-hoon sighed. Who? It's enough. Such a foolish man. Sort it out among yourselves. I will leave first. For a moment, the surroundings were enveloped in silence. After collecting my emotions, I spoke. At first, I accepted the first 34 fallen disciples. I obtained permission from each of them and contained my disciples' spirits in my upper danshan. Since then, the deceased children have been with me. Although it was hard to accept all their relatives, at least those children have been with me after death. Until now. I felt frustrated by my disciples who clung to death and honed their revenge. But after accepting vengeful spirits like my disciples, I finally understood the children. Master and disciple influence each other. Just as they were influenced by me, I was also influenced by them. That's why the master-disciple relationship is called a familial relationship. Now, I can no longer simply block my disciples. I have come to understand their emotions, the grudges in their hearts. Now, I can empathize with you, even if it's weak. I understand a little of the pain and grudge you all bear. Looking around, I said. But still, facing their emotions head-on and empathizing with them, I expressed my desire. I wish you are alive. My talent is extremely modest. Even though I maximized my limited talent, by accepting the resentful spirits of my disciples under much more favorable conditions than other masters, I have yet to discover the last of the 7 emotions. Desire is my unattainable emotion. Even though I know that desire equals life, I have not yet discovered this last emotion. I have not reached the ultimate enlightenment, nor have I understood what life is. It has been a life of not being able to do and not doing, so please. I won't tell you to forget your grudges or not to repay them, but, at least all of you, please live that life. Before today, my disciples never listened to me, but now they nodded to my words. We will definitely live. We will live and greet you, Master. Starting with Man-ho, they all fell prostrate before me. We will survive. For you, Master, maybe, for the first time since establishing this master and disciple relationship. It was a moment when the hearts of the master and disciples connected. Thus, we were successful in opening our hearts before the final battle, and the day of the decisive battle arrived. Chapter 32, Life 7. On the day of the decisive battle, during the waiting time outside the imperial city, I began to read a book carefully. But why did you ask for that? Kim Young-hoon asked, looking puzzled as he saw me reading. The book I was reading had no title. It was a manuscript written by Kim Young-hoon. In the first regression, Kim Young-hoon, who became the best martial artist in the world and reached the 5 energies converging to the origin realm, created the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts in order to allow martial artists to escape from cultivators. The record was further improved upon and evolved into the record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts by the second regression, Kim Young-hoon. It was meant to give martial artists a lifeline against cultivators. The record became gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts scripture. After the third regression, Kim Young-hoon added 6 volumes regarding his insights fighting and escaping from cultivators. The fourth regression, Kim Young-hoon integrated and simplified the 6 volumes into the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, which paved the way for a new realm. The nameless book I was reading right now was the evolved version of the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, further advanced by this regression's Kim Young-hoon through endless battles against cultivators. If the scripture and secrets discussed transition from the 5 energies to the next realm, the nameless book detailed the extreme resentment, seen in the new realm, of course. I don't understand even when I'm reading it. The complexity of this martial art system, evolved again from the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, was beyond my comprehension. Kim Young-hoon, noticing my struggle, clicked his tongue and said, "You don't need to force yourself to understand. This is not a completed martial art." Not completed? Martial arts should be passed down. Even though I've become an unparalleled great master, I will die someday, but my martial arts live on as my legacy, proving my existence. Thus, the completion of a martial art is in its transmission. He explained, glancing at the book in my hand. Its minimum entry requirement is 5 energies converging to the origin. Just as a first-rate cannot understand the world of the pinnacle, and an early peak cannot understand the world of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Anyone below 5 energies cannot comprehend this martial art system. It's incomplete because it can't be properly transmitted. So it's complete but incomplete due to its extremely high entry barrier, I summarized. Right. This martial art needs to be adapted so that it can be understood even by those at the level of 3 flowers. As I listened, I smiled slyly. Is there a need for that? In my opinion, just give it to a warrior who can reach the 5 energies or someone with Kim Hyung's level of talent. There's no need to simplify it for them. Haha, Yoon-hyun, talent like mine in martial arts comes once in 1,000 years. I assure you my talent is almost implausibly high. That is true. This is how I felt seeing him evolve his martial arts to a new realm every regression and faster each time. But don't worry, Kim Hyung. I'll pass down this martial art to you in the next regression. His martial arts will always be passed down without the need for simplification. Because I will always ensure its transmission. Anyway, how about naming this martial art? I suggested. A name, he pondered and then smiled. Gazing at cultivators, eventually surpassing the limits of martial arts and condensing these secrets. The creator of secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts probably spent his life just observing cultivators, and that's how it ended. He could never surpass them. However, I have surpassed the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, and discovered the possibility of surpassing cultivators. With my current level, I won't be inferior in a battle against late-stage Kai building cultivators. If I ambush a core formation cultivator, I can inflict significant injuries. He wrote characters in the air. The energy flowing from his fingertips beautifully illuminated the void. Surpassing cultivators, surpassing the martial arts framework, and recording the achievements. Record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. That was the name of the newly evolved martial arts record, record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. Reminiscent of the combination of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Seeing the name, I recalled the Young-hoons of the first and second regressions. Their unfulfilled wishes were slowly being realized. With a slow smile, I put the fully read record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts in my chest pocket. Having memorized the record, I could pass it on again, even if I died today. Let's go, Kim Hyung. Yes, it's about time. Today, the imperial family of Yongyuo will change. Whoosh. In the skies above Seokyeong City, blue and red lights flashed. It signaled the end of the agreement between the Jin and Mackley clans. Now, we just need to enter. Flash blue lights burst from the eastern, western, southern, and northern gates of Seokyeong City. At the same time, red lights also burst from the southeast, southwest, northwest, and northeast directions. Lights from the Mackley and Jin clan cultivators intermingled above the city, casting their magical influence over Seokyung City. Rumble. A barrier conjured by the two cultivator clans enveloped the city. As it formed, ordinary pedestrians began to stagger and collapse. Anyone below the mid-first-rate lost consciousness and fell on the streets, while late first-rate warriors barely resisted the barrier's influence with their weapons. But even they would succumb if they lost focus for even a moment. Now, only the masters who had entered the world of intent remained conscious inside Seokyung City. Even among them, those who had recently entered the pinnacle realm and couldn't constantly operate in the world of intent would soon faint. Terrifying. The terror of cultivators wasn't just about individual strength. It was about their formations and mystical abilities. A formation powerful enough to seize a city in an instant, laid by just 8 Kai-building cultivators. Even that was because the Jin and Mackley clan cultivators were mutually restraining each other. In reality, just 4 of them could have set up this formation. No wonder they treat ordinary people like insects. They wouldn't even acknowledge or listen to us. But still, there is basic human decency, being born human, asserting oneself as a human. There are obligations that come with it. I clenched my teeth, recalling the atrocities of the Mackley clan. As long as I can, I will stop you. Swoosh. As soon as the barrier formed, I used my movement technique towards the Imperial City. Simultaneously, my disciples and Kim Young-hoon's followers, who were lying in wait around Seokyung City, picked up their weapons and moved out. Additionally, over 100 cultivators from the Jin clan in red robes flew above us on their flying devices. Inside the barrier of Seokyung City, a deep blue barrier spread around the Imperial Palace. The defensive barrier looked thick at first glance. Inside, cultivators from the Mackley clan in blue robes strengthened the formation and prepared their spells. Just then, Kim Young-hoon took flight. Boom, boom. He stepped on the air, rising, and stretched out his hand. Everyone, prepare to enter. His voice seemed to cover the entire Seokyung City. Kim Young-hoon, floating in the air, gently extended his palm. A round sphere of Gang Kai emerged from his hand. That is, I observed the new realm he had achieved. The bright sphere split into three Gang Kai spheres, but they split again around Kim Young-hoon, forming 9 spheres. 9 Gang spheres lined up behind him. Then they arranged around him. Bang, bang, bang. The 9 spheres struck the barrier over the Imperial Palace, creating 9 holes. Enter. Crash, the Jin clan cultivators threw their talismans which stuck to the holes in the barrier, preventing its repair. The cultivators from the Mackley clan seemed surprised by the size of the openings created by Kim Young-hoon's strike. Swoosh! I used Mountain Lord's soaring flight, scaling the outer wall of the Imperial Palace and entering through the hole Kim Young-hoon had made. A mortal has entered. Block. Severing Vein Saber method, Mountain Wind, thud. My piercing strike, filled with sword gang, penetrated the shouting Mackley cultivator's mouth, creating a hole in his medulla. Severing Mountain Swordsmanship, 9th move. Landscape painting. Boom, boom, boom. My sword filled with sword gang wildly slashed in every direction. Though it seemed haphazard, each strike followed the optimal trajectory. Each perfect trajectory smashed the defensive spells of the lower-grade cultivators of the Mackley clan, tearing their bodies apart. In the hole at the outer wall of the Imperial Palace where I was located, a mist of blood formed around me in an instant. Ugh, a peak martial artist. Everyone, use the jiangshi as shields and prepare spells from the rear. Screech, screech. Thus, the battle unfolded with an intensity that shook the very foundations of Seokyung City. 2nd move, entering mountain. 14th move, Kai Mountain, Heart Heaven, connecting technique. Kai Mountain's entry path. Whoosh. Switching to a lower stance, I opened up the meridians, expanding the force of my energy and slicing widely through my opponents. Swish boom. In a single move, the attacking jiangshi had their legs severed and fell to the ground. Deep Mountain. Ascending Vein. Charging in with Mountain Lord's soaring flight, I entered the embrace of a cultivator chanting from behind and cut him upwards. Crack, my sword gang pierced through the cultivator's defensive spell, splitting his body diagonally. Ah, how can this mortal? The other astounded cultivators used some kind of spell. Swoosh. F-woom, boom. A water orb and wind blades, along with a yin ring, were cast towards me from different directions. Secluded Valley. Along with Secluded Valley, I used record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts to penetrate the intents behind the spells, twisting the direction of their power. Rotating in place, I neutralized all 3 spell attacks. The spells didn't even brush my clothes. What? Bouldered cliff. Whoosh, 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 crack, spinning in place, I shot circular sword gang at the confused cultivators. Before they could use another spell, they were shredded by my sword gang breaking through their defenses. Flesh and blood sprayed in all directions, filling the air with the scent of blood. My commotion drew the attention of all the cultivators. Stop that martial artist first. Deploy all the Jiangshi. Drive him out. Hundreds of Jiangshi, oozing with poison, rushed towards me. Meanwhile, others began to enter through the hole behind me. Boom! 314 of my disciples, each armed, lined up behind me. Clean up. I'll go inside first. After giving a brief order, I headed below the outer wall. Led by Manho, my disciples nodded briefly before clashing with the horde of Jiangshi. Whoosh, I jumped down from the outer wall. A cool wind rose from below, and then, boom, a spear was hurled at me with a breaking sound. It's awkward to dodge, and if I parry in midair, I'm at a disadvantage. Quick judgment. In an instant, I swung my sword against the outer wall. Crack. After emitting sword silk and embedding my sword into the wall, I used it as a support to leap up again. Then, I powered my legs and deflected the spear with a spin. Clang. My counterattack, optimally executed, sent the spear flying back, and I quickly pulled my sword from the wall, using heavy fall technique to quickly land on the ground. Martial artists, including the one who threw the spear at me, started to gather around. Ah, long time no see, everyone. Shut up, villain. We've never seen someone like you. Faces I had seen during my time in the Shadow Guards. The chief and deputy chief of the Imperial Outer Defense Force, the admiral and deputies of the Golden Army, and the generals of the United Guard. Faces I had occasionally seen. Although their relationship with the Shadow Guards was indifferent, as we were supposed to hide in the shadows, it's a bit tricky to kill them. They were just following orders. What fault did they have? Each was simply acting out of the loyalty they were taught. Don't worry, I won't kill you. It's harder not to kill cultivators due to their defensive spells, but against these people it's much easier. Fling, infinite fighting hidden weapon technique, straight snake, the quickly thrown weapon lodged in the shoulder of the Outer Defense Force chief. Coated with poison, he would soon be paralyzed. I took an antidote from my pocket and scattered paralysis powder in all directions. Infinite fighting hidden weapon technique, illusionary snake mist. Several weapons accurately grazed the bodies of the deputy chief and United Guard generals beyond the paralysis powder. I coated my sword tip with poison, and using Deep Mountain, I lunged at the generals of the United Guard and the admiral of the Golden Army, lightly cutting their skin. What remained were the deputies of the Golden Army. Infinite fighting hidden weapon technique, double killing snake swish, swish, 2 weapons flew in different trajectories towards them. And in that moment, I re-grasped my sword stance. Severing vein saber method, mountain wind, fling. A rapid thrust pierced the deputies trying to block the hidden weapons, and the poison on my sword tip entered their bodies, causing them to collapse soon after. They're not fatally poisoned, so they can be detoxified later in the Imperial Medical Hall. The Imperial physician is a bit better than me, so he should be able to decipher the mixture. I left the twitching peak masters lying in foam behind me and surveyed the layout of the surrounding buildings. The emergency shelter for the Emperor in case of emergency is the Hidden Dragon Hall. Officially, that is. But as the former deputy leader of the Shadow Guards who closely guarded the Emperor, I knew. The actual shelter is the glowing scenery pavilion located beyond the northwest corner of the Imperial City. During my time in the Shadow Guards, I didn't understand why I had to guard a cultivator emperor, nor did I understand why such a shelter existed. After all, neither the commoners' rebellion nor the army could match up to them, so why the need for such a shelter? But now I understand. It's a place prepared in case other cultivator clans conspire to usurp the imperial throne. Screech. More Jiangshi than I saw from the outer wall screamed and rushed towards me. Easily hundreds in number. Apparently, they were just released en masse to entangle any intruders. Snap how many people were sacrificed to create these Jiangshi. I gritted my teeth and gripped my sword. It should be about time now. Thud, at that thought my disciples jumped down from the outer wall below. Any casualties? None at all. Thank you, have you cleaned up everything? We've only dealt with the Jiangshi. The remaining Makli cultivators are engaged in combat with the martial arts experts brought by Sir Kim and the Jin clan cultivators. Good, from now on, everyone will follow me. We will go to where the Emperor is. Yes. At my words, my disciples shouted excitedly. First, we break through the Jiangshi horde. Since they're just to entangle us, there's no need to kill them all. Everyone form a wedge. Leading the way, my disciples lined up behind me in a triangular formation. Let's break through? Yes. Peak masters of this level, with their internal energy, is equivalent to a cavalry in terms of power and speed. Although fewer in number, their strength and speed are in no way inferior. I ran ahead, allowing my disciples to follow, infusing my sword with sword gang. Severing mountain swordsmanship, fourth move. Flowing ridge. As I called out the sword moves, just like we practiced during training, my disciples assumed their appropriate stances and connected their positions. While a standard formation typically unifies weapons, to peak masters who can read intent, such variability is not a flaw. Instead, they break through by compensating for each other's weaknesses. Boom. Initially a straightforward stabbing technique, it transformed with the force of breakthrough, erupting like a clash of chariots, shattering the Jiangshi before us. Kai Mountain. Heart heaven, I opened my meridians wide and pulled forth even more sword gang, rumble. Leading from the front, I mowed down the Jiangshi, making my way through. The disciples on my flanks also infused energy into their weapons, shaking off and breaking through the Jiangshi. Hundreds of peak masters carved a path through the black ocean of Jiangshi. This is it. As we tore through, the dividing wall of the imperial palace came into view, severing mountain swordsmanship, mountain and valley transformation. Unleashing sword gang, I demolished the wall and altered the nearby landscape. I then positioned myself at the forefront and made my way through the collapsed wall. My disciples on the flanks quickly closed in from a wedge formation to a parallel I formation. Following through the gap I created, my disciples streamed in like a tail. Entering through the wall, the Imperial Garden, Guowen, came into sight. Formations lie ahead. Fortunately, they weren't too strong, and I knew all the life gates of the formations. Life gates in cultivation stories are basically the exit points in formations and arrays. Everyone, follow exactly behind me. Recalling the life gates spread around Guowen, I stepped through them, unraveling the formations as I went. My disciples followed precisely, and the Jiangshi, lacking this knowledge, aimlessly entered Guowen but couldn't penetrate the interior, just circling around. At the edge of Guowen, another wall appeared. Having already shaken off the Jiangshi, instead of hastily breaking the wall, I used Mountain Lord's soaring flight to leap over it and landed on the other side. A quiet, small pavilion floated on a little lake, devoid of people. My disciples also streamed in behind me. Master, there's no one here. Without a word, I raised my sword gang and launched it towards the pavilion. Boom! Simultaneously, my sword gang collided with an invisible barrier around the pavilion and dissipated. This is the place. KHWA, shoot the flare. Before I finished speaking, a crackling sound came from behind and a flare shot up into the sky. Whoosh bang! A 5-colored cloud exploded in the sky. Simultaneously, about 5 Jin clan cultivators in red robes flew towards us on their flying devices. The Emperor is here. Well done. We'll dismantle the formation. The Jin clan cultivators, still on their flying devices, took positions around the pavilion and cast their spells. Flash, a bright light burst, shattering the invisible wall, revealing the emperor and the palace guards previously hidden in the pavilion. Dozens of cultivators in blue robes from the Mackley clan were waiting in the pavilion, the face of Mackley Jung twisted like a vengeful ghost. Damn it! How did you find this place? Only the palace guards and the shadow guards know about the glowing scenery pavilion. Boom. As Mackley Jung shouted, one of the Jin clan cultivators who had dismantled the formation launched another flare. This time, a white smoke cloud. A signal that the emperor has been confirmed to be found. At the same time, boom. Dozens of Jin clan cultivators who were pushing back the Mackley clan cultivators on the outer wall began flying towards us. The Jin clan cultivators arriving at the lake quickly took up positions. As light burst forth, they formed a formation. Heat, roar. A fireball the size of 10 meters appeared in the sky. Go! Simultaneously, the fireball created by the Jin clan's formation plunged towards the pavilion. Rumble. Besides the illusion formation hiding its appearance, several other barrier formations, seemingly layered, enveloped the pavilion in a blue sphere. Hiss, however, the fireball evaporated all the water around the pavilion, wrapping the area in steam. Through the steam, wind, and yin spells shot towards the Jin clan cultivators in the sky. The Mackley clan cultivators inside the barrier started to move out. A Jin clan cultivator cast a spell and shouted at me. "Hey, mortal, we'll handle the cultivators. You break through the palace guards." The barrier is weakened enough by the previous attack. You should be able to penetrate it with your sword gang. Understood? I responded to the Jin clan cultivator and dived into the now dry lake towards the pavilion. As I neared the pavilion, bang. A halberd thrust out from the shadow beneath the pavilion. Clang. I deflected the halberd and smiled at my opponent. Leader of the Shadow Guard, Tiger Slaughtering Halberd, Quack Ilguk. Long time no see. Translator notes. Regarding the part about record of surpassing cultivation and marital arts being a combination of the previous records, is because exceeding, transcending, and surpassing are all the same word in the raws, as I mentioned before in a previous translator note. So the direct translation of the new martial art would be record of surpassing cultivation and surpassing martial arts, or record of transcending cultivation and exceeding martial arts. A combination of the words transcending cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Of course, I translated it as surpassing cultivation and martial arts to make it easier to differentiate, and it's shorter to type. Translated phonetically, record of surpassing cultivation and marital arts is Wal Su Wal Murak. The previous records are Wal Su Gung Murak, transcending, and Jo Su Wal Murak, gazing. Hence, you can see why Seo Yoon Hyun said that the new record is a combination of the previous record's names. On that note, I rant. This bastard Kim Young-hoon can't name for his life. Of all 5, and even more books later on, they're all a pain in the ass to type, and I can barely remember their names in the Korean raws. They're all wall this and wall that. I have to use the frickin' wiki to make sure I get them. Right. Chapter 33, Life 8. Quack Ilguk twitched his eyes. Do you know me? Of course. I am Seo Yoon Hyun, known as Infinite Fighting Monster. Pleasure to meet you. As I greeted him with a polite bow, he seemed a bit perplexed. Strange, I don't know someone like you. I haven't heard of Infinite Fighting Monster in the martial arts world, nor in the intelligence service. Ha ha ha, naturally, I've never engaged in martial arts activities in this lifetime. At my words, Leader looked at me as if I was speaking nonsense. Meanwhile, red threads extended from him, aiming for my neck. But I read all his moves with my purple intent and countered his initial moves with a convergence of intent. He seemed to put all his effort into our clash of intents, and I spoke to my disciples behind me. Look, this is the power of the Shadow Guards. None of you can stand one-on-one against him in a clash of intents, right? Indeed. Tension filled my disciples' faces. Especially since I had constantly compared them to the Shadow Guards, the name must have left a significant impression in their minds. Leader in front of me was sweating profusely as he kept losing in our clash of intents, and I continued to explain while comfortably wielding my sword. If you face the entire Shadow Guards one-on-one, you're bound to lose. Each of them has reached the mature stage of mid-peak where one can freely manipulate Kai Silk. While some can't manipulate Kai Silk, those types are even more dangerous, using poison or more sinister methods like me. The Palace Guards is also of similar strength to the Shadow Guards. The difference is that the Palace focuses on protecting the Emperor, while the Shadow is trained to kill assassins attacking the Emperor. I pointed to the Palace Guards on the pavilion, maintaining a solid stance and guarding against us. You will face the Palace Guards. They are superior in skills to you, but with your numbers and the transcending Cultivation formation, you can break through. Your learned martial arts are more defensive, so you'll be relatively safer. Now, go and break through the Palace Guards, kill the Emperor, and fulfill your revenge? Yes. My disciples answered in unison fervently. Red rage surged from them. I looked at Quack Il-Guk, engaged in our clash of intents, and the entire Shadow Guards lurking in the shadows below the pavilion, ready to support him. The Shadow Guards I will handle. My disciples leaped over me, storming the pavilion. The Palace Guards drew their weapons and formed a defensive formation, with the Emperor beginning some sort of spell in the center. I, continuously launching intent, kept the entire Shadow Guards in check. 3 flowers. Even. A master in the late stage of 3 flowers. Quack Il-Guk, struggling with our battle of intents, spoke with difficulty. Impressive. Knowing it's the late stage. Have you entered the world of intent? Leader was on the boundary between mid and late peak. He might just be able to perceive the faint third color. Why would a genius like you, of your age at that level, side with the rebels? Yang Yuo is enjoying peace now. As he spoke with sweat dripping, he gripped his halberd. I laughed sarcastically. Peace. Surely, for the ordinary commoners, there's no better peace. But someone of your level must know that the Mackley imperial family of Yang Yuo are cultivators and what they are scheming in the shadows. I know. But you have joined hands with the former imperial family, the Jin. They are no different. They too are cultivators, and they see us as nothing more than tools. I acknowledged the fact calmly. You are right, leader. No one knows that fact better than me. I understood his views from my past life. The Jin clan wasn't much different, but being a tool is slightly better than being livestock waiting to be eaten. The Mackley clan should no longer sit on the throne of Yang Yuo, the lesser of 2 evils. That's all. Of course, our views will never come to agreement. Come at me. I showed a small gap in my intent as a trap. The Shadow Guards, knowing it's a trap, still came at me gritting their teeth. Don't underestimate the power of the Shadow Guards. The leader's halberd lunged at me, and simultaneously, a member wielding a slashing sword aimed for my ankle. Behind me, a member with a 2-handed sword lunged at me. Certainly, they were formidable forces. I remember even killing a master in the late stage of 3 flowers in a combined attack with them. A typical master of 3 flowers could be matched by the Shadow Guards. However, I had reached the late stage of 3 flowers gather at the summit, and had learned records of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. In an instant, I cut through their consciousness and escaped the combined formation. Click, I slowly sheathed my sword in the midst of the melee. After all, these were colleagues from my past life. Of course, the people from my past life and those now are entirely different. But emotionally, it wasn't easy to harm them. I won't kill you. In an instant, my sword touched the vital points of the members. After scattering paralysis powder and subduing them all, I appeared in front of Leader and struck with my sword. Arg! Boom! Our weapons collided, sending out waves of energy. Realizing his men were subdued, despair filled Leader's eyes. You have no personal feelings, you only serve loyalty. Clang, clang, I pressed him with my sheathed sword, speaking calmly, so I won't kill you. Arg! His intent surged more rapidly. I faced his intent head-on, slowly engaging in the battle, matching his moves, stance, and intent, almost like a mirror image, excluding the weapons and subtle martial arts. Leader, thinking I was mocking him, turned increasingly red. At a certain moment, his intent changed. Quack Ilguk's intent, which had failed to properly follow my trajectory, began to intertwine with mine, intermingling. Gradually, a sense of bewilderment crept into his eyes, which were previously ablaze with intensity. I led him on. Ting! My sword clashed with his halberd. At the same time, clarity returned to his eyes. He had seen the third color. This is. Lost in the midst of battle, he murmured in a daze. Boom! A tremendous shockwave and explosion spread out. His coordination faltered under the vast surge of energy. Eventually, my sheathed sword, which had been parallel to his, penetrated his coordination and struck his neck. Arg! He collapsed on the spot, unconscious from my controlled strike. Anyway, having seen the third color, he should ascend to 3 flowers once he awakens and comprehends his realization. Though time had passed, and he was not the same person, it was the greatest respect I could show to my former superior. Leaving the unconscious leader behind, I turned towards a huge explosion that just gone off. Whoosh! A massive whirlwind tore apart and lifted an entire building in the distance. From the pavilion, the palace guards facing my disciples screamed in horror. The Crown Prince is there. Arg. That location must be the Hidden Dragon Hall. The Emperor evacuated here and the Crown Prince was in his place. Did Mackley Young use his son as bait? But then, I frowned. That whirlwind's power doesn't seem like Mackley Hyun's magic. In the center of the whirlwind, a dark shadow loomed. An imposing presence. Seeing the size of the consciousness in the whirlwind center, I realized, that person is the founder of Yongyuo, the cultivator of the Mackley clan who reached Kai Building. Mackley Wangshan around the whirlwind, someone was moving. It was Kim Young-hoon. That's... Kim Young-hoon held something in one hand. Focusing my vision, it looked like someone's head. It must be Crown Prince Mackley Hyun's head, given the circumstances. I thought Mackley Young had hidden in the glowing scenery pavilion with the palace and shadow guards, using his son as bait. It seems I was mistaken. It wasn't about leaving his son as bait in the Hidden Dragon Hall. Instead, he had placed the strongest guard there. However, this was the result. Kim Young-hoon's understanding of the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts, derived from the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts that is specialized in escaping and ambushing cultivators, allowed him to catch Mackley Wangshan off guard. Whoosh! Numerous wind bullets and wind blades shot towards Kim Young-hoon from the whirlwind. A single wind bullet obliterated an entire floor of a building, the monstrous power of a Kai Building cultivator, but boom, boom, boom. 9 spheres rose behind Kim Young-hoon and shot towards the Kai Building cultivator. Bang, with a loud noise, the gang's spheres pierced part of the whirlwind, bringing down an entire building. The imperial city crumbled under their battle. Arg, what is this? These cursed Jin clan, breaking the agreement and secretly bringing a Kai Building cultivator into the barrier. The cultivators of the Mackley clan burst into fury and cast their spells. The Jin clan cultivators just smirked, not responding. However, Mackley Young, performing spells in the center of the pavilion, burst into a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha, what's everyone so worried about? Our ancestor recently achieved a breakthrough in his training, ascending to the 3rd stage. Even core formation is just around the corner. Do you think he would lose to a mere cultivator? Hearing that, the Jin clan cultivator's expressions darkened. Already at that stage? Just a Kai Building cultivator. Can we really hold out? Unlike others, I climbed onto the pavilion with a light heart. Not to mention the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. Kim Young-hoon had already killed a late Kai Building cultivator and severed the hand of a core formation cultivator when he created the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. There's no chance of defeat. The interior of the pavilion seemed much larger than from the outside, perhaps due to a space-condensing spell. In the center, the emperor who was performing spells was protected by the palace guards around him. The guards were desperately blocking my disciples' combined attack. But they were overwhelmingly outnumbered and faced the transcending cultivation formation. There was no way they could win. Let's finish this quickly. I too drew my sword gang, ready to enter the formation, when suddenly, boom, another loud noise tore off the roof of the pavilion. What's this? Confused by the sudden turn of events, swoosh, blood rained from the sky, splattering down. The guards and my disciples were baffled, but the cultivators and I were shocked. The intent in the blood, the terrifying consciousness within. It was the Kai-building cultivator who had just been fighting Kim Young-hoon. His soul, his divine consciousness, was in that blood. In such a short time, Kim Young-hoon had killed Mackley Wangshin, the Kai-building cultivator of the Mackley clan. The blood containing the divine consciousness of the founding emperor, Mackley Wangshin, shot towards the stupefied Mackley Jung. The emperor's face began to show terror. Ancestor, no, this can't be. Ancestor, please spare me. Ancestor, please, please. Splash. Mackley Jung screamed in horror, but the indifferent blood splashed onto his face. Mackley Jung's screams echoed for a while, and after a moment, shiver, I shouted at the top of my lungs. Everyone, retreat. Fortunately, my disciples instinctively backed away in terror. But the palace guards, protecting Mackley Jung, failed to grasp the situation and couldn't evade the founding emperor's grasp as he possessed the emperor's body. Swoosh. Arg. The life force and essence blood of the palace guards was being sucked into Mackley Jung. No, into Mackley Wangshin, who had taken over Mackley Jung's body. Whoosh, a massive consciousness filled the entire pavilion. Dangerous. Mackley Wangshin extended his hand. His gesture was pointing at me, the highest level presence here. Then it happened. A flash of light burst from outside the pavilion. Boom! Mackley Wangshin, who was gathering his power against me, hastily extended his hand towards outside the pavilion, deploying a defensive spell. A violent wind blew, breaking his defensive spell like fragile glass. Half of the pavilion affected by the spatial spell was torn away. There I could see Kim Young-hoon slowly approaching. Kim Hyung. My face turned pale. Kim Young-hoon was bleeding all over, with a chunk of his flesh torn from his waist. Cough, cough. It seems his internal organs were damaged too, as he was spitting blood with every step he took. Kim Young-hoon didn't kill Mackley Wangshin without harm. Mackley Wangshin had inflicted considerable damage on Kim Young-hoon, even as he was being killed. Cough, arg. Then, Kim Young-hoon, who seemed to be regathering his strength, suddenly lost consciousness due to his severe wounds and collapsed. This is the worst. Shiver, Mackley Wangshin, gasping for breath, spoke. Fortunately, his energy just dropped in the nick of time. What a monstrous man. I was almost killed. Stomp, stomp. He kicked away the bodies of the fallen guards around him, clicking his tongue in disgust. Damn it, having to take over the body of such a low-quality descendant. Even my cultivation has dropped to the level of Kai refining 4th star. He looked up at the sky. Simultaneously, the Mackley clan cultivators fighting the Jin clan cultivators started fleeing in panic on their flying devices. These worthless things, running away in front of the clan elder. Once this replacement battle is over, I'll have to melt them all into a handful of blood water. Swoosh, the consciousness of the terrifying Kai-building cultivator soared into the sky. Mackley Wangshin's consciousness transformed into a hand shape, reaching out for 2 Kai refining 1st star cultivators trying to escape. As Mackley Wangshin cast a spell, faint light circled around the hand of consciousness, and it seemed to physically pull in the lower-level cultivators. Elder, please spare us. Please. I am a distant relative of Ancestor. I have never had descendants who are no better than trash mortals. As he extended his hand towards the Kai refining cultivators, their life force, essence, blood, and cultivation were all sucked into Mackley Wangshin. Slurp gulp after devouring his bloodwater-turned descendants, Mackley Wangshin's power surged from Kai refining 4th to the brink of 5th. Kai refining 5th star cultivation. But, one who once reached the extreme of Kai building, tingle. Normally, I could rush in and slit the throat of a cultivator of this level, but my instincts were ringing alarm bells. It's not just Kai refining 5th star. Combined with the consciousness of a cultivator who had reached the peak of Kai building, his power is Our eyes met. A crawling sensation surged over my body. Mackley Wangshan smirked. Quite perceptive for a mortal. Assessing my power, let me tell you kindly, the strength I can exert right now is... Rumble wind swirled around Mackley Wangshan. A wind incomparable to that of Mackley Hyun enveloped him. The level of Kai refining 13th star. I gritted my teeth. To all disciples, listen, I needed to buy time. Feed Kim Hyung the recovery pills each of you brought. Do your best to make him regain consciousness. I took the primary sword stance. I'll stall for time. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 23rd move. I'll hold on no matter what. Endless mountains beyond mountains. Chapter 34. Endless mountains beyond mountains. I took the primary sword stance. Severing mountain swordsmanship. First move, transcending peaks. Whoosh, a whirlwind. A whirlwind made of thousands, tens of thousands of wind blades, shredding the entire pavilion and ascending towards the fireball. When the whirlwind touched the fireball completely shattered and dispersed. The Jin clan cultivators who had created the formation all spat blood and retreated. Ha, mortals. You dare to block my attack. Do you understand what it means to have been at Kai Building? A dark shadow shone through the whirlwind. Mackley Wangshan, in the center of the whirlwind, chuckled at me. Now, try to block this. Feel what it's like to face someone at Kai refining 13th star. Squee, a giant rock made of wind flew towards me. The scale of the spell was incomparable to the spell previously shown by Crown Prince Mackley Hyun. This one spell alone seemed to cover the entire lake where the pavilion was. I can't dodge. My disciples haven't all escaped with Kim Young-hoon yet. I must stand my ground. Severing mountain swordsmanship, 22nd move Severing mountain. The techniques from the 1st to the 21st moves of Severing mountain swordsmanship burst out in an instant. Then, gathering strength with the final move of Heavenly Lake, I unleashed another strike. Swoosh. The rock made of wind didn't completely shatter, but it split in half and flew past me on both sides. Huo! I steadied my breath. Then back to the primary stance I had initially taken, preparing for transcending peaks. Mackley Wangshan, having blocked the Jin clan's flame spell, chuckled. Oh, you blocked it once. Quite a big stroke of luck. Let's see how long that luck lasts, and also... Flash, suddenly a whirlwind blew and a blue barrier appeared over the entire lake. The Jin clan cultivators gritted their teeth. This is a barrier. Is he trying to prevent us from escaping? Mackley Wangshan grinned at Kim Young-hoon and my disciples, who were trying to escape across the lake. I can't let that damn man who blew up my body escape. First, I'll crush those Jin clan flies and this martial artist, then slowly flay that despicable man. Boom. Once again he formed a seal, and a dragon made of wind burst from the whirlwind surrounding Mackley Wangshan and swooped down towards me. I clenched my teeth and raised my sword. The Kai building cultivator of the Mackley clan, Mackley Wangshan, calmed his burning anger and used his spells methodically. He had worked his entire life to surpass Kai building, reaching the peak of Kai building. If things had gone well, he might have even aimed for core formation in this lifetime. But everything was ruined by that monstrous man, the Jin clan's final weapon. Although the monster's consciousness was only at the Kai refining 4th or 5th star, he had evaded his own perception, beheaded his descendant Mackley Hyun, and used some strange techniques, eventually killing him. At least it was a replacement battle. If it had been a real battle with no relatives nearby, he wouldn't have dared to resurrect by taking over a descendant's body. However, upon resurrection, he realized that the descendant, Mackley Jung, whom he had taken over, was essentially trash. If only I could have taken over that Mackley Hyun's body, but that was impossible since the martial artist had beheaded him. I had hope of reaching core formation. With such inferior quality, it was doubtful he could even recover his peak Kai building cultivation, let alone reach core formation. It was all because of that Jin clan martial artist. Therefore, Mackley Wangshan planned to crush all the Jin clan flies and the martial artist who seemed to have ties with him, and then leisurely flay the Jin clan's final weapon, pickling his flesh. It should have been swift. What? But the martial artist, brandishing iron scrap, was not going down. This mortal, he just wouldn't fall. Despite numerous powerful spells, he stood up like a roly-poly every time, using his sword gang to deflect his spells. I thought mortals' dantians couldn't hold as much energy as cultivators. Why wasn't he getting tired, more so? Another step. Squish, one step, slowly. He was approaching, annoying. He was already annoyed by the Jin clan flies casting spells, and allowing this martial artist to approach would distract his consciousness. I'll have to use a larger spell, even if it's a bit strenuous. Mackley Wangshin raised his spiritual power, preparing a larger spell. The whirlwind surrounding him writhes furiously. Then, with a massive roar, it takes the form of a wind tiger and flies towards the unyielding martial artist. Ha, your internal energy must be completely depleted by now. Stop resisting and rest easy. You should feel honored that I used such a spell on you. Just then, boom, with a slash of the martial artist's sword, the wind tiger sent by Mackley Wangshin splits in half. What is this? And again. Step, the martial artist takes another step forward. You have infinite internal energy or something. How can you still have the strength to use such techniques? And another step. Cutting through the wind, the martial artist slowly, very slowly, advances towards him. I've seen him continuously maintain his sword gang. How can he still have so much energy left? Impossible. What trick are you playing, you mortal? One step. With each step, Mackley Wangshin's expression began to distort. Severing Mountain Swordsmanship, 23rd move, Endless Mountains Beyond Mountains. This technique wasn't a special move or action, but a concept reached upon mastering the Severing Mountain Swordsmanship to a certain level. I wield my sword. I cut through the wind patterns. Then I return to the primary stance. Everything reverts to the primary stance, restoring all the energy and internal strength I had expended. Hooah! Breathing in, the internal energy that was about to be exhausted is pulled back into my dantian with my breath. The internal energy that leaked from the sword gang is also recaptured and forcibly returned to the dantian. Regardless of the technique used, I revert to the basic stance, returning the flow of Kai to its initial state. A technique that theoretically allows for infinite stamina, as it prevents the depletion of internal energy. That is the essence of Endless Mountains Beyond Mountains. However, it's only theoretically infinite. The moment I stop performing this technique for even an instant, the accumulated Kai backlashes, draining all my energy and causing immense pain. I experienced this pain during practice sessions. I cannot stop. As there are endless mountains beyond mountains, I too must be endless. Therefore, it's a technique to be performed with the readiness to face death. Whoosh, from transcending peaks to severing mountain. I keep swinging my sword non-stop, linking sword moves continuously. After performing all moves, I return to the stance of transcending peaks, maintaining endless mountains beyond mountains. My swordsmanship's power remains unchanged. Mackley Wangshin's spiritual power might decrease over time, but my techniques remain constant. However, ugh. After piercing through a wind bird with mountain tiger, I return to the stance of transcending peaks. I feel like I'm dying. Not depleting internal energy doesn't mean not depleting mental strength. I focus intently to prevent the waste of internal strength with each move, then revert back with endless mountains beyond mountains to forcibly recapture the expended energy back to the dantian. This continuous process is excruciating, like boiling my brain. Bubbling. Despite being conscious and not fainting, the heat in my head makes saliva in my mouth boil into foam, spurt. Blood bursts from my eyes and nose. Forcing the energy back into my body strains not only my meridians but also makes me feel like my limbs will snap. But still. Whoosh. Ha, you're cutting this down as well? I refuse to give up. Give up, martial artist. It seems you're somehow recycling your limited internal energy. If you stop your sword for even a single instant, you'll self-destruct from the recoil. Mackley Wangshin sneers, but I pay no heed. I just keep swinging my sword. Wind birds, wind dragons, wind unicorns, wind kirin, wind sharks. Numerous spell forms assault me, but I keep cutting, blocking, deflecting, counterattacking. Thus, step by step, I approach, spurt my tendons, strained from the continuous moves, burst. My arms are filled with pain as if it's tearing apart. When the tendons snap, my arms lose strength. But I connect the tendons with internal energy and again perform the sword moves. Horizontal / upward / lower level / smooth thrust spinning / change in technique diagonal / twist, and nullify the attack diagonal / flurry powerful downward / varying speed upward / shoot sword gang. And then repeat it all from the beginning. Crack. What's that sound? Yes, it must be my bones splitting, but I do not stop. Give up, rumble. Mackley Wangshan's words become a verbal spell enveloping everything. His voice, imbued with consciousness, makes the souls of my disciples in my upper dantian cry out, screech. A horrific wail resounds in my head. Behind me, my disciples who had been watching also clutch their heads and roll on the ground. Ha! You must have forcibly absorbed souls into your upper dantian to enhance your lacking talent. After all, there's no other way to mass-produce so many peak martial artists with mere mortals. But, you know, for someone with the consciousness of a Kai-building cultivator, it's too easy to stimulate those vengeful spirits and incapacitate you all. Give up, you mortals will never be able to stand against cultivators? I'm just 20 steps away from Mackley Wangshan. Behind me is a trail of blood, shaped by my footsteps. My internal energy is the same as before, but the slowly flowing blood is now gradually diminishing. Between me and Mackley Wangshan is the whirlwind he created. Can I break through? How dare you? Get lost. Mackley Wangshan's verbal spell shakes my mind again. Hundreds of disciples' souls in my head scream, and I spurt blood from my nose and mouth. My head turns white, but even in this pain, I keep moving my sword. I've moved it thousands, tens of thousands of times, continuously training and practicing. Even while teaching my disciples, I never let go of my sword, because I was attached. Maybe even in death, I might keep swinging my sword. So, this sword, will not give up. I will not let go. One step, another step, one more, step by step, step by step, step by step. Spewing blood from my mouth, unable to see ahead due to blood, but still step by step. I keep moving slowly but steadily. Thus I keep moving forward. Splosh, splash. Even the Jin clan cultivators wandering in the air burst into blood rain one by one under Mackley Wangshan's attack. But only I keep steadily approaching him. A look of dread emerges on Mackley Wangshan's face. The color of his consciousness reflects the same. Those behind me, Shiik. A wind blade from Mackley Wangshan tears a chunk from my waist. A terrifying wind tears the skin from my sword-wielding hand. I will not let them die. Boom! The sword gang erupts from my sword, piercing Mackley Wangshan's whirlwind. I see his startled face. What is this? Just then. Suddenly, I see the seventh color that I've never been able to see before. No, it's not seeing, it's knowing. Ah, I see. Joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, letter F9 5C, love, hate, letter F9 B9, and finally, desire. My greatest desire was ultimately life. Therefore, the color of my desire was the color of life. What color is life? Look up at the void. Life is full of colors, full of lives. Life is essentially many colors, and therefore it is complete in itself. Hence, the color of life is infinitely transparent, colorless. Because it is all colors, it is colorless. That's right. I've been seeing my desire's color from the beginning, colorless. Since it has no color, it is all colors, and I've been seeing all the colors of life from the beginning. Realizing the color of life for the first time, I found the answer to the question I had been searching for. How can humans know infinite colors? How can humans reach beyond 3 flowers gather at the summit to 5 energies converging to the origin? Simple. In fact, humans, all beings, cannot be infinite. We must acknowledge that infiniteness and accept the infinite variations of colors. Maybe my reluctance to send my disciples away, my obstruction of their desired vengeance, was just my obsession, arrogance, and ignorance. I never cared about their wishes from the beginning. In a world of infinite possibilities, one earns the right to see a new world. At life's end, I shed my obsessions and arrogance. By acknowledging my own emotions, I finally recognized the feelings of my disciples. My vision began to change. The 6 most fundamental colors plus the completely transparent colorless. These 7 hues merge together, mixing, transforming, integrating. In this transformation, I see countless new colors previously invisible. Though I can't perceive all these infinite colors, I sense their essence. What these colors represent, and how far I can see into this infinite realm of human emotion, my soul's microcosm, opens. Connecting with the heaven and earth, an infinite spectrum of colors intertwine and fully integrate. I now see the one color formed from all these hues. Colorless. The one color formed from all colors becomes completely transparent, starting to assimilate the surrounding space. Till now, I've only perceived the flow of intent through sight and sensation. Now, the flows between heaven and earth enter my mind through the space I've assimilated. Information from all surrounding spaces seem graspable in my hand. In this space of all-encompassing awareness, I launch a strike and take a step forward. "How can a mere mortal awaken such consciousness?" exclaims Mackley Wangshin in astonishment. "Perish, you lowly mortal. How dare you step into the realm of Kai refining?" His consciousness resonates, and the spirits of my disciples scream within my mind. Despite reaching this new realm, their agonizing cries still cause pain. Yet within their wails, I understand why I awakened the 7th color. I can now hear them. "Don't die. Please live. We wish for your survival." The voices of my deceased disciples aren't just cries, they're fervent desires. The will to live. The same yearning for life I always had. These myriad voices have led me here. I speak out, blood gushing but undeterred, shouting with all my might. "My disciples, both the living and the departed, though my foolishness has caused you pain, now I will end this source of suffering. Survive. Survive and experience this beautiful, transparent life. My sword gang shines with a brightness that cannot be compared to ever before. Let your momentum rival the mountains. Let your heart reach the heavens. Kai Mountain. Heart Heaven, I open every meridian, squeezing out the last vestige of Kai. Only 5 steps from Mackley Wangshin. My sword gang pierces through Mackley Wangshin's whirlwinds and defenses. "Persistent vermin, you still defy me," he bellows, but to no avail. He attempts to flee to the sky, but it does nothing but relieve my concern for his wide-area spells. "Ha ha, once you go up to the sky, what can a guy like you do? There's no more internal energy left in my body. But I still have my willpower left. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, ultimate skill. The final and ultimate technique pursued by record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts so far. The last secret technique to create a slight chance to escape in front of a cultivator. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Endless middle path, letter F937. All my intent converge into one point. That point, like the speed of light, penetrates the consciousness of Mackley Wangshin and delves into his upper dantian. "Og," he grabs his head and falls back to the ground. Starting by slicing through the domain of consciousness in the end, the record delves into the deepest recesses of human consciousness, attacking the spirit itself, the ultimate skill. A strike that directly attacks the opponent's mind with my mental strength. An attack that could not be blocked by anything other than withstanding it with one's own mental strength. Stride forward. This guy. As he forms a hand seal, a sharp wind blade is shot towards me. There's no more internal energy left. I just slash with the most efficient movements. Swoosh, both his wind blade and my sword shatter at the same time. Stride forward. Another step. Get away. Whoosh, I throw a hidden weapon at his leg to prevent him from retreating. Mackley Wangshin, without a moment to form a spell seal, wildly spews out his spiritual power. A violent windstorm approaches. Not a speck of internal energy or strength left. But, undeterred, I reach out my hand. Dropping the hilt of my broken sword, I approach him through the wind. Mackley Wangshin, having lived for 298 years, felt fear at the hands of a mere martial artist for the first time. He doesn't tire. He doesn't know how to give up. Mackley Wangshin forcefully controlled the resentful spirits implanted by the Jin clan, breaking through the Jin clan's spells and inducing their outburst. Despite the agonizing pain akin to being continuously beheaded, this madman doesn't give up. Even if flesh is torn, blood vomited, or sword broken, he doesn't give up and somehow even awakens a cultivator-like consciousness as a mere mortal. No, high-level spells aren't activating. Somehow, with the pain of his consciousness being carved out with a sword, part of his original spirit became damaged. He was unable to use any of his high-level spells, which were ordinarily easy to execute with simple hand gestures. He could still potentially cast high-level spells, but in his current state, he would need to perform the full ritual of forming hand seals and chanting mantras. And right there, the monstrous martial artist reaches out his hand. Think, he had defeated all the Jin clan cultivators. Just this leech-like martial artist is left, and victory was his. Right, he doesn't seem to have any Kai in his body. Mackley Wangshin forcefully expels more spiritual power, pushing away Seo Yun Hyun with a violent wind. It's my victory? Just then it happened. The fundamental energy of heaven and earth began to stir. What's this? Mackley Wangshin, with a dumbfounded look, watched the flow of heaven and earth spiritual energy. The 5-element spiritual energy. The 5 basic strands of spiritual energy, floating in the air, began to form a circle. Mackley Wangshin's eyes widened. Could it be? He had seen it before, written in ancient texts. A record that even mortals, through continuous training, can reach a state akin to a cultivator's 5-element spiritual roots. The sudden awakening of consciousness. The circular Kai containing the 5 strands of elemental spiritual energy turned into 5 circles, swirling above Seo Yun Hyun's head. Eventually, the 5 types of Kai crumbled into a multicolored energy. The multicolored energy entered Seo Yun Hyun's nose and mouth. No, this can't be happening. A considerable amount of spiritual energy had appeared in the opponent who previously had none. Seo Yun Hyun, who seemed almost dead, was now pushing through the violent wind. Crash! Egg! Seo Yun Hyun, breaking through the wind, grabbed both arms of Mackley Wangshin. Mackley Wangshin screamed under his powerful grip. A lifetime of holding the sword till it crumbles. Seo Yun Hyun's eyes met with Mackley Wangshin's. Once I grab something, I never let go. Rumbling. Mackley Wangshin's face turned pale as a ghost. A pure white light formed in the empty air. Gang Kai began to form. I'm dying. Flash, the light exploded. Mackley Wangshin slowly opened his tightly shut eyes. He was alive. Gasp. Huff. Whoosh, the cluster of light in the air dispersed. The last spark of life had disappeared from Seo Yun Hyun's eyes. Dead, huh? Eyes wide open, still holding onto Mackley Wangshin's arms. He died standing there so fiercely. Ha ha ha. So that's it. Mackley Wangshin forced a laugh as he observed Seo Yun Hyun's body with his consciousness. The backlash of forcefully maintaining energy. Ha ha ha, no wonder he wouldn't fall. Indeed, such a technique can't be without repercussions. Ha ha ha. He was alive. He had survived. He, I won, you mere mortal. Just as he was about to shout his victory, the dust cloud rising around began to settle. Beyond the dust, numerous figures stood. Ha ha ha, what's this now? Aren't these the insignificant bugs that were hiding and trembling behind? Seo Yun Hyun's disciples. They were trembling, grinding their teeth in anger. Mackley Wangshin, thinking Kim Young-hoon, the monstrous martial artist who had destroyed his body, might have regained consciousness, checked his surroundings with his consciousness, but Kim Young-hoon was still lying down. Ha ha ha, no matter how many of you trash gather, what can you do? You're nothing compared to that guy I was just dealing with. Mackley Wangshin clicked his tongue, thinking of extracting the vital essence of these trash to recover his life force, just as he was about to form a hand seal. Suddenly, Seo Yun Hyun's corpse was still not letting go of his arms. Despite being a corpse, his hands would not release. I can't feel my blood circulation. He couldn't even form a hand seal, let alone feel his hands. Mackley Wangshin desperately tried to form a foot seal or use the U-step method, but even that was impossible, possibly due to the hidden weapons Seo Yun Hyun had thrown at his legs. Damn it. Mackley Wangshan's triumphant expression twisted into a gruesome scowl. His arms and legs were sealed, and due to the technique used by Seo Yun-hyun, his primordial spirit was damaged, preventing him from using high-level spells through his consciousness. His options were running out. Cry out. Mackley Wangshan's command activated the resentful spirits remaining in Seo Yun-hyun's disciples. Yes, that can be done. Cry out. Cry. Plop, pop, clear lights began to rise around Seo Yun-hyun and also around his disciples. Mackley Wangshan knew exactly what it was. The spirits. The spirit ascension technique. The resentful spirits remaining in the disciples were being purified and ascending to heaven, both in Seo Yun-hyun's body due to his death and in his disciples' bodies. Master, why? Did you use your last for us? Manho cried with tears flowing. Following him, many disciples started to weep, biting their lips. Mackley Wangshan realized something. Damn it, damn it! The gang Kai formed by Seo Yun-hyun at the last moment hadn't dispersed. Instead of striking Mackley Wangshan, it rapidly spread in hundreds of directions, penetrating the souls of his disciples. At the final moment, he chose to break the spells engraved in his disciples' upper dantians instead of killing the enemy. Mackley Wangshan's face became desperate. His hands, feet, and consciousness were all bound. Even his verbal spell was denied. Then, Manho, Khwa, Chunggya, and others, countless disciples of Seo Yun-hyun with tears drew their weapons. Even if Seo Yun-hyun had broken the spell, it wouldn't dissolve unless they themselves released their families. But they heard it. Live? Seo Yun-hyun's voice, the will to live within it. The moment the spells imposed by the Jin clan broke with the gang Kai sent by Seo Yun-hyun, everyone felt Seo Yun-hyun's will. Leave the rest to us. He entrusted the final blow to his disciples, believing in them, trust towards his disciples. And the opportunity they dreamed of to strike down the emperor, just to give them that chance, just for that opportunity. You tell us to live, but how can we if you leave first? Only then did the disciples understand their master. Just like how their master realized and understood their own stubbornness, they too understood the bitterness of leaving behind those they cherished. Get out of here, you mere mortals, you trash. Whoosh. Mackley Wangshan hastily unfolded a low-level defensive spell, but as about 300 peak masters continuously bombarded the barrier, it began to thin out. Oh no, I'm a cultivator. I'm the founding emperor of Yongyuo, a cultivator who has reached the peak of Kai building. I am. He looked with eyes filled with terror at the corpse of Seo Yun-hyun, still holding his arms. Seo Yun-hyun's corpse, still glaring at him with eyes wide open. Dead, yet his presence was as mighty as Mount Tai. I am. Beyond the mountains, there are endless mountains, and in the middle of the road, the path is endless, a letter F937. A single person might come to their end, but what that person leaves behind never fades. Crack, Mackley Wangshan's barrier shattered. Beyond the barrier, the eyes of Seo Yun-hyun's disciples, inheriting his will and shining just like their deceased master, glared at Mackley Wangshan. Beyond the Mount Tai that was Seo Yun-hyun, the mountains continued unceasingly. I want to live. Manho's great sword decapitated Mackley Wangshan. Thud, the life of Mackley Wangshan, who stubbornly survived by forcefully taking over his descendant, the current Emperor Mackley Yung, came to an end. Who? The founding Emperor Mackley Wangshan and the current Emperor Mackley Yung. Manho, having decapitated him, held Mackley Yung's head and looked at the still-standing dead body of Seo Yun-hyun. Seo Yun-hyun's corpse, with eyes now closed, had a faint smile of satisfaction. You watched till the end. Manho, with tears, laid Mackley Wangshan's head before him. And then knelt down. Khwa, Chunggya, Yoksan, Yolya, Guak Jisoo. All 300 or so disciples knelt down in turn. Please rest peacefully. Seo Yun-hyun's disciples bowed together, bidding their master a final farewell. Translator notes, with that, the fifth and the longest cycle so far is now over. What is in store for our main character now that he obtained the qualifications to cultivate? Come back next time, Aka tomorrow to find out how did y'all like this arc. Personally, this battle is one of my favorites. I teared up at the end during my first read. Anyway, the next couple chapters are gonna be a little shorter, bless my soul, but the story is gonna get more and more interesting. I'd also appreciate it a lot if you guys can give a rating on novel updates. Just give it what you think it is. More ratings, no matter the rating, gets more people to read and more comments for me to see. Chapter 35, Sixth Cycle's First Day Blink Hugh. I gasped for breath as I opened my eyes. I'm alive. It was still the familiar smell of plants and trees. I had returned again. Deputy Manager CO. Be quiet for a moment. Thump. Before Jian Myung-hoon could say anything, I moved quickly and pressed his sleep acupoint. Then I quickly pressed the sleep acupoints of Kim Young-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok, Kang Min-hee, Oh Hai-seo, and Kim Yeon. Thud, thud, thud. All six, excluding me, fell asleep on the spot, and I quickly dug up some sleeping grass around me. After extracting the juice skillfully, I administered it into their mouths. They won't be able to wake up for at least 3 to 4 hours. A bit stiff. Perhaps due to forcibly drawing internal energy through a body devoid of any internal energy, my arms and legs felt a bit stiff. I wandered around, quickly digging up a yellow bamboo root and popped into my mouth. Crunch, crunch, I chewed on a bit of dirt, but that was bearable. After chewing on the yellow bamboo root for a while, I felt a warm energy surging in my stomach. I sat down and started to meditate, first anchoring the dragon vein Kai method in my meridians. How many times did I perform internal cultivation while sitting? I could feel all the fatigue in my body being relieved. Now that the framework is set, let's give it a proper try. The last moments of my past life, during the fight with Mackley Wangshan, a new realm was drawn by the souls of my disciples. Huo. Taking a deep breath, I got up and recalled the final moment's memory. Then, I took the stance of the severing mountain swordsmanship. While Kim Young-hoon achieved enlightenment sitting in a lotus position, I found holding the riding stance a bit more comfortable. Whoosh boong, with empty hands, I revived the memories and sensations from that time. Joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, letter F95C, love, hatred, letter F9B9, desire, the 7 basic emotions and intents. Based on these basic intents, a multitude of colors fill the space between heaven and earth. All these immense intent were emanating from me alone. Integrate them. As numerous as they seem, the subject is ultimately one. All originated from one color spectrum. The myriad of colors intertwined and integrated. Then they became colorless and merged into the void. As the infinite colors reached their limit, they transformed into the nothingness. Thus, my intent evolved into divine consciousness, encroaching the surrounding space. Entering, even with my eyes completely closed, all the information from the surrounding space entered my mind. It wasn't just reading intent. Integrating all intents, I sensed the world itself. My 6 sleeping colleagues rustling in their sleep, the smell of grass, small insects crawling under the ground, the warm sunshine, small leaves swaying in the wind. All information seemed graspable in the palm of my hand. I awakened a new sensation I had never felt before, not just the flow of intent, but the flow of the world, the flow of heaven and earth that operates the world, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This is spiritual energy. Everything in the universe has spiritual energy. Even if not like human intent, each has its unique energy, Kai. This energy naturally flowed, aligned with each object's movement and operation. I sensed the flow of energy from a small ant crawling under the ground, solving one of the mysteries I had always wondered about. Intent is something only the living possess. That's why Jiangxi cannot use sword energy. But why did I sense intent even from the Jiangxi? It wasn't human intent. I merely read the natural flow of energy in Jiangxi, whoosh, while sensing the flow of thousands of strands of heaven and earth's spiritual energy. I realized something was wrong. My head, it hurts. It felt like it was about to burst. This wasn't just a metaphor. Right now, my head was literally swelling up in real time. I had felt this sensation a long time ago, when I was transitioning from first rate to peak. all day long, imitating the vision of peak masters. When my brain was overloaded back then, I felt a similar sensation for a moment. My brain is overloading. It was on the verge of explosion from the overwhelming volume of information, not metaphorically. But in reality, the upper dantian was absorbing the surrounding energy, causing my head to actually swell. Right, it was like that then too. Even in the final moments of my past life, it wasn't much different. It was just that I hadn't paid attention to it due to the wailing in my brain and the pain throughout my body. Indeed, this is what happens when one acquires a consciousness like that of a cultivator, back then. Recalling the enlightenment from my past life, I began to take the same actions as I did at that time. I slowly observed my body. The balance of the upper, middle, and lower dantians were twisted and discordant. The upper dantian had become excessively large and was still growing in real time. If left as it is, my head would eventually not withstand the growth of the upper dantian and would explode. I shall evolve my physical body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth inherently seeks to harmonize all things. Therefore, naturally, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to seep into me, responding to my severe disharmony. The 5 elements spiritual energy, the most fundamental of the energy of heaven and earth, the origin of all chi movements in the universe and nature. 5 strands of energy gathered towards my upper dantian and converged above it. Eventually, the 5 elements spiritual energy crumbled into one and started seeping into my body through my nose and mouth. Huo. Inside my body, the fundamental 5 energies, which establish the balance of all things under heaven, began to flow. Instinctively, I realized what I needed to do. I must evolve my physical body. Based on these 5 streams of energy, I must completely remodel my body to withstand the growth of the upper dantian. I finally understood what rejuvenation truly meant. Previously, I thought that the spiritual energy seeping into the body would naturally evolve it. I was mistaken. Energy doesn't evolve the body, it's just the material used for remodeling. The actual agent of rejuvenation was always myself. I personally crackle. I must balance my body. With intent, I rearranged my bones and muscles. I pulled and optimized the meridians, making them flow through the most efficient paths. The 5 elements spiritual energy did not directly help, but showed me the right way to reconfigure my bones and muscles. Adding my medical knowledge from being a doctor, I was able to easily remodel my body. Bones rearranged, skin shed, useless fat pushed out, and toxins like nicotine and cholesterol in the blood vessels expelled. My entire body's bones and muscles were remodeled into a form optimized for accepting the flow of energy from heaven and earth. The best physique for martial arts. The meridians widened, the bones and muscles strengthened, and the dantian expanded significantly. Simultaneously, all the minute blood vessels in my body opened wide, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth little by little. I could live by just breathing through the skin without needing to breathe through my nose. At this moment, I was more of an evolved human than a regular human. Flash, as I opened my eyes, it seemed as if pure light flowed from within. With empty hands, I performed the primary stance and unfolded the severing mountain swordsmanships transcending peaks. Tiny dewdrops at the tips of the grass under my feet were flung up by my stance. With my movements, the dewdrops flew higher into the air, and in my eyes I could clearly see the trajectory of each droplet. Within those droplets, I could see a reflection. Flawlessly clear skin, a face not particularly handsome but without superfluity. Though not much, a considerably younger face, through rebirth and rejuvenation, my own reflection was seen in those dewdrops. Shush, I sliced through the air with my hand, and the sharp intent split the dewdrop in midair, continuously unfolding sword techniques. The flow of energy floating between heaven and earth. I infused my intent into that flow, injecting my internal energy. Whoosh Gang Kai began to form in the empty space. Now, I could use the flow of the void itself as a weapon. Crash. Grasping the Gang Kai formed in the air, I used the first to the 20-second moves of severing mountain swordsmanship. Then, I decided to do something I had always wanted to try. Wish. I performed the mountain lord's soaring flight and leaped towards the highest tree nearby. In an instant, I reached the top of the tree and kicked off a branch from there. I could see into the newly acquired consciousness, into the sensations of my newly acquired physical body, the countless wind patterns flowing through the sky, and the flow of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth between the winds. Is this how it's done, naturally, in my mind? I figured out where I could step, with optimized movements, and without any waste. I stepped on the breezing wind and the flow of spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Boom! My foot struck the void, stepping in the void. Although it wasn't familiar yet and consumed a lot of my internal energy, I felt a tingling pleasure coursing through my body as I continued to step in the void. Boom, boom, boom. Stepping on the void, I continuously soared higher into the sky. Higher and higher, the ground gradually became distant and the sky drew closer. I moved my feet faster, stepping on the flow of the void and surging towards the sky. Then, suddenly, whoosh, I broke through the clouds and found myself above them. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Shaking off the water droplets that clung to my entire body with the white sea of clouds beneath my feet, I laughed out loud. Finally, I have reached it. The realm I had longed for and aspired to. The minimum requirement I aimed for. Unknowingly, I felt tears welling up. The tears, mixed with the droplets from the clouds, began to fall to the sky below. Thank you. I spoke to my disciples from my past life, to those across the timeline whom I could never see again. It was thanks to you that I could reach this point. I nurtured you with my heart. But now, I will never be able to see you again. The you in this returned time won't be the disciples I raised. Since I can never see you again, all I can do is wholeheartedly thank you. Thank you, my disciples. And I'm sorry, my disciples. I was able to reach this realm by taking care of you, listening to your wishes, acting foolishly on my stubbornness, and cutting through that stubbornness, the realm I endlessly aspired to reach. The 5 energies converging to the origin. Not maintaining stepping in the void, I fell back down, facing the patterns of the wind. I embraced the refreshing breeze from the expansive sky, while simultaneously cherishing the memories of my disciples deep within my heart. Holding on to these past memories, I came to understand that I had truly arrived at the starting point. Whoosh, from now on, it's the real beginning. Buried in the clouds, I thought so. Yes, from now on, it's the real starting line. Chapter 36. 5 energies converging to the origin and the changes that followed. I descended to the ground, woke up my companions, and briefly explained the situation. It seems we are stranded, with no knowledge of our location, and so on. I led the group to a cave, lit a fire, and fed them some food. After that, I put them back to sleep and left the cave. Thud. I kicked off the air and ran towards where the fox was. Thud. How long did I wander in the air? I was able to sense the vast field of consciousness once again. A giant fox with 3 tails. This time, how far can I go? Thump, I landed on the ground. Then, I slowly approached the fox while simultaneously using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Buzz, whir. Creating a hand blade, I cut through the air, slicing through the fox's perception, and approached it slowly, just 10 steps from the field of consciousness. That was my limit in the past life. What about now? Step without hesitation. I moved within 10 steps. Step and then another step. The texture of consciousness is much clearer and more distinct than when I first reached the stage of 3 flowers gather at the summit. It's clear how to cut and navigate through it. I continued walking towards the fox's field of consciousness. 9 steps, 8 steps, 7 steps. 3 steps, 2 steps, and then the last one. Hesitating with just 1 step left, I focused my intent more intensely and took that final step into the fox's field of consciousness. Like so, I successfully entered the fox's domain of consciousness, the consciousness of a core formation demon. Finally, I smiled within the fox's consciousness. Finally, I can operate to some extent within the consciousness of a core formation being. That is, at least I can flee in front of a core formation cultivator. I continued to navigate the fox's field of consciousness using the martial arts created by Kim Young-hoon. The size of the fox's consciousness extends 30 zhang, 100 m, in radius from the fox. I continued walking, closing in about 1 zhang closer to the fox. The remaining distance is about 29 zhang. The fox's consciousness gets much denser from here on. However, I concentrated my consciousness and gather my intent. The essence of Kim Young-hoon's enlightenment, evolved from secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, is still vivid in my mind. Its minimum entry requirement is 5 energies converging to the origin. Just as a first-rate cannot understand the world of the pinnacle, and an early peak cannot understand the world of 3 flowers gather at the summit, anyone below 5 energies cannot comprehend this martial art system. It's incomplete because it can't be properly transmitted, the end of my past life. Kim Young-hoon's words echo in my mind, but you don't need to worry. This martial art will now, I concentrate, be inherited by me. Record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. A supreme martial art system that only begins with 5 energies, born through all the stages from record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts to secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. That enlightenment blooms from my fingertips. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts lets one slice through consciousness. Record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts lets one harmonize with consciousness. Record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts lets one divide consciousness. Sword gang forms in the air. The shining sword gang, moving on its own, unfolds record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts and burrows into the fox's consciousness. Since sword gang is inanimate, it doesn't cause any worry for biological reactions or other thoughts, making it much more easy to enter and only needs to cut through consciousness. The sword gang swiftly crosses another 6 zhang, closing the distance to the fox T023 zhang. Beyond this point, the density of the consciousness was definitely thicker, making it hard to approach. I dispersed the sword gang and organized the essence of record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. So this is what the enlightenment of surpassing cultivation and martial arts is like. A technique where I divide my consciousness, input actions, and implement it. Not just simple actions, but even thoughts and enlightenment could be input, allowing me to fully unfold my techniques. This is the essence leading to the next realm beyond 5 energies converging to the origin. The realm of using Gang Kai compression sphere. Until now, I wondered how Kim Young-hoon managed to intercept opponents with spheres of Gang Kai, but now I'm beginning to understand. If I continue to follow the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts, I will eventually reach the realm beyond 5 energies. With that hope, I cut through the fox's consciousness again and returned to the cave. The next morning, the fox came again, asking for my arm, and I simply gave it to it again. Maybe because my new arm was free of cholesterol and nicotine, the fox chewed it very deliciously, seemingly coveting the rest of me, but eventually said it would come back in 5 days and left. It seems my body has become more suited to the fox's taste after my transformation. A few days passed. Soon they arrived. Swoosh, as Sir Chang-ho stomped his foot, my arm regenerated, 3 cultivators appeared and looked around us. This time, the reaction was slightly different than before. So there are 4 with spiritual roots. The middle-aged man in a golden robe flicked his hand. As his consciousness moved, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth spontaneously writhed and enveloped me. Jian Myung-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok, and Kang Min-hee. This is a new sight. Until now, only the same 3 were chosen, but now I was also the subject of their interest. They chatted amongst themselves, then one by one took Jian Myung-hoon, Kang Min-hee, Oh Hyun-seok, and turned their attention to me. Not responding to my spell. No reaction to my earthen listening technique. My law view shows no reaction. Woong, I felt my consciousness tremble at their strange method of conversation, resonating with vibrations. I didn't realize until now, but with awakened consciousness, I understood their way of speaking was not through voice, but by directly infusing meaning into consciousness. Well, let's see what kind of spiritual nature you have. The man in the golden robe reached out to me. Woong woong cough. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth moved on its own, compressing my entire body. At the same time, the spiritual energy forced its way into my meridians, wreaking havoc throughout. Simultaneously, I felt the consciousness of the man in the golden robe thoroughly searching my entire body. Kgh, pain as if holes were being drilled into all my meridians. But I clenched my teeth and endured the pain. After a while, the cultivator in the golden robe crudely withdrew the spiritual energy from my body and spoke, You have good endurance. But, PFFT. The spiritual energy that had exited my body gathered in the air and split into 5 streams of energy. The attributes of the 5 elements. Seeing this, interest faded from the eyes of the cultivator in the golden robe and the others. 5 elements spiritual roots. That impure energy I feel from his body. Is he a martial artist? Ha ha ha, judging by his expression, he seems to have been unaware of the cultivation world. Perhaps he just lived in the mountains, unaware of his own spiritual nature, practicing martial arts. The blue-armored cultivator, Chang Ho, laughed heartily. You seem to be unaware of the cultivation world. For spiritual nature or spiritual roots of cultivators, the fewer attributes they have, the faster the cultivation speed. Conversely, the more attributes, the slower the cultivation progress. That is why a single attribute spiritual nature is called heavenly spiritual nature. 2 or 3 attributes are called true spiritual nature. 4 or 5 attributes are called mixed spiritual nature and are disdained. Ha ha ha, but don't worry too much. If cultivation was solely determined by natural talent, those with 5 elements spiritual roots like you would have all hanged themselves by now. Cultivation is not just about talent, but also understanding of techniques and realms, and overall mental capacity is important. Persistence, patience, and willpower also play a significant part. From what I've seen, you have terrible talent, and I'm not sure about your mental capacity, but you passed that nasty golden robe guy's brutal spiritual nature test without screaming, so your endurance and willpower seem excellent. PFFT, Sir Chang Ho laughed heartily and flicked a small cluster of light towards me. The cluster of light merged into the back of my hand, transforming into a small mark, at the farthest reaches of my family's extended lineage. There is a cultivator clan established by those guys. They're too weak and overall frail to be taken to the Ascension Gate this time. Still, this might be of help to you. It's a recommendation letter for an external member of the family. They're in a country of mortals called Byokra, and they use the surname Chengmun, so you should head to the Chengmun clan. After finishing his words, Sir Chang Ho and the other 2 cultivators turned into clusters of light and vanished into the sky. I quietly greeted Sir Chang Ho while looking at the small mark imprinted on my hand. Hey, Deputy Manager CO, what exactly did they say? I'm not quite sure myself. I shook my head, pretending not to know, and another day passed. Just like before, a storm blew. I lay in the cave, nursing Deputy Manager Ohaisio, who was groaning in pain, and observed her. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is moving around her. I hadn't known before, but now, with awakened consciousness, I could tell. The vast spiritual power of the sky was swirling around her. Sometime later, Sea Dragon King Seo Hweal appeared, took her away, and soon after, Manager Kim Yon awoke her powers. Kugagagugu this is. Only now, with awakened consciousness, could I vaguely see the reality of Manager Kim Yon's abilities. Incredible. This is a human's consciousness. Countless threads of consciousness, seemingly thousands, millions, even billions, were emerging around her, enveloping the space between heaven and earth. The size of these threads of consciousness seemed not to pale in comparison to those of cultivators. At the same time, I noticed her upper dantian rapidly expanding, suffering the same side effects as me upon awakening her abilities. I let out a small exclamation at her ability and pressed some acupoints to stabilize her upper dantian a bit. Deputy Manager CO. Touching me like this, my head seems to hurt less. Manager Kim Yoon held her head and looked at me. Then she looked in one direction, the direction where the several cultivators and the Sea Dragon King had headed. From there, a hunchback strange being was flying towards us. Whoosh! As soon as the hunchback being arrived, he looked at me and Manager Kim Yoon, flicking his finger at her. A white cluster of light flew and landed on Manager Kim Yoon's upper D/danchin, starting to ease the twisting effect. What's that? I had never seen such a thing in my past life. It must be something he's been using all along, but I could only see now with awakened consciousness. The hunchback old man examined Manager Kim Yoon, then turned his gaze to me. What's this? Like the previous cultivators, the hunchback's gaze was different from the previous encounters. Let's see this bone structure, this spiritual nature, this size of consciousness. After examining me for a moment, the hunchback suddenly approached and started fiddling with my body. Shortly after, the hunchback chuckled and giggled. I see. This internal energy. This bone structure. These meridians. The size of consciousness, and especially the 5-element spiritual roots. You're the same kind as that person I saw in my youth. The hunchback revealed his teeth and giggled. You weren't born a chosen cultivator, were you? Right. I couldn't help but flinch at those words. None of the previous cultivators or the Sea Dragon King had noticed that fact, or perhaps they just weren't interested. The old man chuckled and continued to grope me. I felt a bit annoyed, but seeing the size of his consciousness, I knew I couldn't oppose him and had to silently endure. Your consciousness is stirring. I was right. You are a martial artist who has learned martial arts and entered the realm of cultivators, right? How did you know? I asked in Yangyuo's language so Kim Yoon and Director Kim wouldn't understand. The hunchback old man chuckled and spoke. Well, I saw someone just like you about 1600 years ago. Yes, martial artists call this realm 5 energies converging to the origin, don't they? Indeed. I expected they were beings who lived for a very long time. Such beings, having lived for so long, would surely have encountered a martial artist who had reached the realm of 5 energies at least once. That person was also considered a genius by the standards of the martial world. I met them when I was in Kai Building, and they were able to compete with me to some extent. Although they eventually lost to me, it was quite an entertaining experience. After meeting them, I scoured ancient texts to see if there were any other such peculiar beings. It turns out every few hundred years, such individuals do emerge, albeit very rarely their characteristics were all the same as yours. The old man touched my shoulder, very sturdy physique. Wide meridians. A martial artist's internal energy fully filling the danchin. The old man grabbed my chin, forcibly opened my mouth and pointed at my teeth. For a moment, I felt the urge to kick him away. But knowing the potential backlash, I had no choice but to forcibly suppress my irritation. Perfectly symmetrical and clean teeth alignment. Such alignment can't naturally occur. Even cultivators born with spiritual roots don't have such teeth. Only martial artists who have reached 5 energies converging to the origin and undergone a complete transformation have such teeth. The old man let go of my chin and touched my consciousness domain with his own, speaking, and the consciousness of a typical 3rd or 4th star Kai refining. To think a martial artist without a speck of spiritual power would have such consciousness? Impossible. Such an enlarged consciousness is only seen in martial artists who have awakened their consciousness at 5 energies converging to the origin. Most importantly, your 5 elements spiritual roots. He then grabbed my wrist, sending energy through it like checking the pulse. Martial artists, when reaching 5 energies converging to the origin, evenly draw the spiritual energy of the 5 elements from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, to prevent imbalance in the upper danchin during their transformation. Thanks to this, martial artists at 5 energies converging to the origin have much more evenly distributed spiritual energy in their bodies compared to ordinary cultivators with 5 elements roots. These are the proof that you are not an ordinary cultivator with 5 elements spiritual roots, but a martial artist at 5 energies converging to the origin. The hunchback chuckled and released his hand from me. Such facts are unknown unless you're as scholarly and wise as I am, having lived a long life. It feels like meeting an old friend from my youth, so I ended up talking a bit too much. It seemed he momentarily overlapped me with the martial artist he met 1,600 years ago. The hunchback old man smirked while looking at the mark on my hand. Seeing the mark on your hand, it seems that Chang Ho, that kind soul, gave you a recommendation, right? Ha ha ha, what a foolish and stupid fellow. A martial artist who reached 5 energies converging to the origin would be perfect for inheriting the body refinement technique he practices. Just being at 5 energies converging to the origin guarantees basic combat power. To recommend such a person to a lowly clan in the lower realms, that foolish fellow made another mistake. He chuckled amusingly and asked me a question. I have a question for you. What is the primary martial art you practiced? Swordsmanship. Oh, good. Swords are great. The friend I met used a spear mainly, but they also practiced swordsmanship. Most martial artists learn the sword anyway. Ah, but that's not the important part. Regarding you. He looked at me with a wicked smile. Can you swear never to wield a sword for the rest of your life? If you make such a vow, I'll personally take you as my disciple, never to wield a sword. Contemplation was brief. No, it would be more accurate to say there never was contemplation. Thank you for the offer, but I cannot let go of the sword. Even though if you become my disciple, you will get the opportunity to ascend beyond the ascension gate, directly to the higher realms. I may be ignorant of what that opportunity entails, but I cannot give up the martial arts I have practiced all my life. If you become my disciple, you can live for hundreds of years more. And yet, you can't give up the martial arts you've only practiced for a few decades. Just a few decades. I let out a small, bitter smile, not just a few decades, nor was it insignificant. My past lives. Yes, martial arts are my past lives. I apologize, but even if I live a short life and die young, I cannot let go of the sword entrusted to my hand. After examining me for a while, the hunchback old man let out a wry laugh. It seems boring. That person 1,600 years ago said the same. Their consciousness was barely at the 4th star of Kai refining, but they could launch attacks beyond the peak of Kai refining. It was fascinating, so I tried to take them as my disciple, but they said the same as you. His expression seemed somewhat regretful. Fine. If you refuse to be my disciple, so be it. Just so you know, I have a bad temper, so I won't particularly recommend you like Chang Ho. It's just that our paths didn't cross. Now, get lost. Whoosh, the old man extended his hand, and space behind him split open, emitting a dark void. The same progression as before. My body and Kim Young-hoon began to be sucked into the spatial rift. Well, I'm not pleased that you refuse to be my disciple. But I respect your spirit, so I'll give you a gift. PFFT, a white cluster of light burst from the fingertips of the hunchbackle old man. The cluster of light seeped into my head as it was drawn into the spatial rift, and something seemed to imprint in my mind. Like always, I fell through the spatial rift. The difference from past lives was that the last thing I saw beyond the rift was not Manager Kim reaching out to us, but the hunchback old man waving. Whoosh, the wind blows. It's cold. Everything around is utterly blue. Where is this? I suddenly realized I was descending at high speed. This is crazy. I was startled and came to my senses. Falling from the sky, looking around, Kim Young-hoon was also far away, falling with me. I quickly deployed void stepping and caught Kim Young-hoon, pressing his sleep acupoint to keep him unconscious, then used void stepping to reduce our falling speed. After falling for a while, I stepped through the air and safely landed on the ground. If I hadn't come to my senses, I would have unknowingly transitioned to the next life. It's chilling. No matter how random, I didn't expect to fall from the sky. I wiped the cold sweat and looked around. First of all, this place is. After observing the terrain by leaping through the sky with void steps, I figured out roughly where I was. The west of Lianshan City. Lianshan City. The city where I first fell. After several regressions, I had fallen again near this place. First, let's see what the hunchback old man gave me. I closed my eyes and began to read the laws imprinted in my head by the hunchback old man. Chapter 37. Cultivator 1. Woong woong in my mind, a volume's worth of mystical runes floated gently. I examined these runes, gradually understanding their content. The name of the method was Hidden Consciousness Technique, a mystic art that allows one to conceal one's divine consciousness to appear at a lower realm. It could be executed solely through the manipulation of consciousness, without the need for spiritual power. The basic principle of hidden consciousness technique involved compressing one's consciousness and pushing it into the upper dantian. This temporarily reduces the size of the consciousness, but increases its density and clarity for a period, potentially accelerating the practice of cultivation methods. Due to dealing with intent, it has some commonalities with record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. I carefully read through all the mystical runes left by the hunched old man. At the very end of these runes, I found a message left by him. As a martial artist who has reached the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, your consciousness is larger than that of other cultivators. However, don't be arrogant just because you have mediocre 5-element spiritual roots. Just conceal your superiority and focus on your practice. Showing off an ambiguous talent will only attract jealousy from those who lack even that. Thank you for your valuable gift. I quietly expressed my gratitude to the hunchback old man and placed Kim Young-hoon aside for a moment. Then, I recalled a bandit group nearby. They were called the Tuho Gang. I had a particular memory involving them, before experiencing regression, in my first life. When famine struck the village I lived in, the Tuho Gang raided and looted everything from our impoverished village. Bang, bang, I kicked off the ground and rushed towards their base near Lianshan City. I was more familiar with the geography around Lianshan City than any other place in Yangnuo. Arriving at the cave where the Tuho Gang is based, I let out a wry laugh at the familiar stench. The smell of alcohol, rotten vegetables, dried semen, rusty weapons, sweat and dirt. Yes, the collective scent of poverty, ignorance, and violence. I was all too familiar with these scents. Memories of my first life came flooding back. Come out, everyone. I spoke softly, yet clearly, into the depth of the cave where the Tuho Gang resided. Hiccup, hiccup. A drunken member of the Tuho Gang, his face flushed from daytime drinking, stumbled towards me with a flexible sword in hand. What the hell are you, fuck? Ha ha ha. His stupid and pathetic appearance only made me laugh. When I was in the early peak in the 4th cycle, I annihilated the chicken waterway fort within a moment, and even they were more organized and skilled than these fools, truly lowly and pathetic robbers. That was the Tuho Gang. I had memories of bowing down at their feet, offering everything I had, begging for my life. You little shit, you dare come to our great Tuho Gang? Life must have been hard, right? What? In your next life, may you have better chances. Thud. No need for a sword, not even a hand technique. I didn't even need to make a fist. I simply extended my finger and flicked the drunken Tuho gangster's forehead. Using a simple technique to send a shockwave through his brain, he immediately fell over, foam bubbling from his mouth. There would have been no pain. Entering the foul-smelling cave, I reminisced about my first life. The Tuho Gang was vicious. But ironically, most of them were originally peasants. Driven to desperation with land taken by landlords, they left their homes and became bandits. Perhaps I would have been among them if I had been a bit weaker. They were another possibility of my miserable first life. Thud, thud. I touched the heads of each person I encountered, shaking their brains and instantly killing them. They were pitiable, but they were definitely criminals. Going deeper into the cave, I found kidnapped people and women lying around, half naked. I pressed their sleep acupoints and quietly killed the Tuho gangsters. After walking through the cave for a while, I reached its deepest area. There, a bearded giant was guzzling liquor. He was the leader of the Tuho Gang. For what reason caused you to operate such a bandit group? The giant, blowing on a liquor bottle, looked at me with dull eyes. He was someone I knew. In my first life, he was the one who led the attack and burned down my village. But now, seeing him, he was at best a second-rate martial artist. Is there usually a special reason? Life is painful, so I thought maybe stealing happiness from others would make it better. So, did life get any better for you? Ha ha, can't you see? Do I look happy to you? Life is nothing but pain. Why is life painful? That is, it's painful because it's painful. Is any more explanation needed? Life is indeed painful. Somehow, I felt I could relate to those words. Clearly, this person and I were in different positions, under different circumstances. Yet somehow I could see my past self in him, the weak and insignificant me who was burdened with pain from life, unable to even find the reason for my suffering. Through the eyes of another vulnerable person, I was able to reflect on my past years. Right, life is indeed painful. HMPH, yeah. Life really is. But I looked at the leader of the Tuho gang with pity. From my experience, pain is not the end. Swoosh, I gently pushed the Tuho gang's leader. The energy I inserted with the tip of my finger caused his brain to burst, and he breathed his last. He must have gone peacefully. I gathered a few silver coins and money from the gang's residence and left. Stepping out, I bathed in the sunlight outside the cave, freeing myself from the nightmare that tormented me in my earlier life. With the silver coins, I went to Lianshan City, made identity plaques for myself and Kim Young-hoon, and bought clothes. Then, I raided the unorthodox factions within the city and took them all down. Selling the gold and properties I acquired from them, I bought a decent manor and devoted myself to educating Kim Young-hoon. Around a month later, Kim Young-hoon, following my teachings, easily reached the state of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Whoosh, 3 kai flowers blossomed in the air and then entered back into Kim Young-hoon. Shortly after, his eyes shone with enlightenment, and he experimented with his new senses, trying out various techniques. Then, his intent connected with my consciousness. Wait, hold on. By the way, Seo Yoon-hyun, that consciousness of yours, what is it exactly? He gazed at me, fascinated by the domain of consciousness surrounding me. I smiled and drew a saber in the training ground, adopting a primary saber stance. Rapidly, I demonstrated the severing vein saber method. Severing vein saber method, first move, mountain force. Holding the saber, I struck both upper and lower positions simultaneously. Severing vein saber method, second move, mountain spirit. Spinning and slashing in all directions, I created a defense that no one could penetrate. Severing vein saber method, third move, mountain presence. I unleashed continuous saber energy, mimicking the overlapping mountains. Severing vein saber method, fourth move, mountain wind. With invisible speed, I disrupted the opposite's flow with my thrust. Severing vein saber method, fifth move, mountain unfolding. More ferocious than the basic moves, the saber danced wildly in all directions. Severing vein saber method, sixth move, mountain bird with light footwork. I swung the saber so fast it was invisible, making my movements unstoppable. Severing vein saber method, seventh move, mountain echo. The sound of the saber resonated, vibrating rapidly to crush everything it touched. Severing vein saber method, eighth move, mountain scream. The energy from the saber burst forth like waves, similar to mountain echo. Severing vein saber method, ninth move, middle mountain. The saber energy dug into the ground, leaving a powerful mark affecting its surroundings. Severing vein saber method, 10th move, dragon's mound. Like a dragon ascending from a hill, the saber's tip thrashed wildly. Severing vein saber method, 11th move, white peak. The ascended dragon's head glowed white, piercing through clouds. I grasped the saber and split it into 10 paths. Severing vein saber method, 12th move, great trunk. The 10 paths of saber energy merged into one, transforming into a powerful strike capable of slicing through millennium-old rocks. Severing vein saber method, 13th move, surpassing mountains. Similar to transcending peaks but several times faster, it sliced through the air. Severing vein saber method, 14th move, returning home. Beyond the slash, I released dozens of saber energies, dividing the attack. Severing vein saber method, 15th move, saber tomb. I poured all techniques from 1st to 14th moves into a single strike. Severing Vein Saber Method. 16th move, Endless Mountains Beyond Mountains. Finally, the 17th move. Boom! I unleashed all 17 moves of Severing Vein Saber Method. The 16th and 17th moves of Severing Vein were identical to the 23rd and 24th moves of Severing Mountain. Moreover, the Sieving Vein Saber Method was fundamentally quite similar to the Severing Mountain swordsmanship. Since they originated from the same root, there was nothing strange about it. I handed my saber to Kim Young-hoon, who was staring blankly at it, and said, "You saw it just now, didn't you?" Yes, I did. What I had just demonstrated was not a mere saber method. I mixed in the enlightenment of 5 energies converging to the origin, showing thousands of threads of intent within the saber method. Perhaps, if he continues to explore the essence of the Severing Vein Saber Method he just witnessed, he would eventually reach the realm of 5 energies. "You are truly a genius. How can you master such a high level of martial arts?" he exclaimed in admiration, and I gave a bitter smile. "A genius? I am not a genius. Like our other colleagues at the company, I just awakened a slightly unusual ability. With that ability, I could immediately reach the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, but beyond that is impossible." I made sure he didn't misunderstand, but his brief remark stayed in my mind for a long time. Genius. A single word that summed up all my past lives. But I couldn't deny it. In this world, there are many who haven't even had the chance to experience my past lives' opportunities. Instead of arguing against being a genius, I pointed out the flaws in Kim Young-hoon's martial arts, taught him literacy and speech, and instructed him in martial arts. 3 months later, Kim Young-hoon mastered literacy and speech and was getting accustomed to martial arts. I left the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts in the manor, and told him to read it when he reaches 5 energies converging to the origin, then left the manor. In this life, I might not have a significant connection with him. I left Kim Young-hoon and headed for Seokyeong City. Having infiltrated Seokyeong City, I quickly invaded the Imperial Palace using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and surpassing cultivation and martial arts. Then, swoosh. Using the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, I cut through the consciousness and silently beheaded the Emperor Makli-Jung. At this time, it seems that the Shadow Guards had not been established yet, as the only people guarding Makli-Jung were the palace guards. Holding Makli-Jung's head, I cut through invisible spells and barriers with my eyes and safely escaped the Imperial Palace. Having escaped, I walked for days and nights until I entered a familiar terrain, the territory of the Jin clan. Wu Wung I had not noticed before, but now I could clearly see the energy of the barrier spread across the Jin clan's territory. It seems like a benefit of awakening my consciousness and being able to see the energy of heaven and earth. The Jin clan's barrier glowed faintly under the moonlight. This shouldn't be difficult. I easily cut through a gap in the Jin clan's barrier and secretly entered their territory. Although it was the Jin clan's territory, it was mostly occupied by Kai refining cultivators. Most of these cultivators had no access to formation methods. That's probably why the barrier wasn't particularly strong. I erased my presence using the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and headed to the familiar training ground. Next to the training ground, in the group lodging. Many breaths and intents were flowing out from there. Thud, thud. I slowly entered the lodging. The smell of sweat was strong. Suddenly, I felt something welling up in my chest as I saw this scene, my disciples. No, the children who were my disciples in a past timeline, but I knew. These children no longer remembered me. The children I remembered were trained by me, developed martial arts with me, and grew up with me. Yes, even though these children are the same beings as the ones I know, they were not the same individuals. The disciples that only I know, I would never see again. Are you suffering even in your sleep? I looked at the sleeping children's intents and smiled bitterly. It seems they were having nightmares of their relatives being killed by Makli clan cultivators. Most of their intents were emitting dark light. For these children, life was nothing but pain. These children are certainly not my disciples, but still, I can't just ignore you. Having lived, I knew that pain was not the end. Gently, I placed Mackley Jung's head in the middle of the training ground. Then, looking back at the sleeping children, I murmured softly, "Live. Even if life is painful, it's not all there is to it. Discovering something beyond suffering makes life truly valuable and worth living. Please, live." After giving a final smile to my disciples, I went to the back of the Jin clan's territory, to a warehouse. The warehouse was enveloped in a sinister aura. I opened the door of the warehouse. Inside, there were hundreds of crystal beads, each containing a resentful spirit. I drew my sword from its sheath. "May you, the deceased, shed your resentment and rest in peace." Flash, the sword gang shining from my sword scattered in all directions, embedding into the crystal beads. Hundreds of crystal beads shattered at once, and the spirits began to escape. Pop, pop. The spirits that escaped from the beads soon forgot their resentment and turned into bright lights, ascending to the sky. The sight of countless spirits rising to the sky and then disappearing was both poignant and beautiful. Watching the scene for a moment, I stepped out of the warehouse and kicked into the air. It seemed I had touched some inner spells, as the surrounding spells were activated. But I cut through the energy knots and quickly escaped the encirclement of the formation. I hurriedly left the Jin clan's territory and said goodbye to my disciples in my heart. "Farewell. May you live a slightly better life in this lifetime." I headed towards the border of Yangnuo, beyond the border in Byokra country. I plan to find the Chungmun clan that resides there. Go to the Chungmun clan to learn the path of cultivation. Chapter 38, Cultivator 2. Byokra is a nation located to the southeast of Yangnuo, bordering Yangnuo and situated on the Silk Road that lies across the heaven-treading desert. Due to its strategic location on the Silk Road connecting distant countries beyond the desert, the wealth of Byokra was unimaginably immense. Silk and glassware were commonplace throughout the area. Merchants riding camels and horses sold tobacco brought from countries across the desert. Herbs and fruits I had never seen before roamed the markets. It's still a bustling place. I thought to myself, looking at the surroundings that had not changed at all since my last visit. This is the place I had come to with young Hoon Hyungnim, who had fallen into listlessness before establishing the Palace of Martial Extremity during the second regression. I had learned some of the Byokra language back then, but since it had been so long, the words weren't familiar. I should relearn Byokra language for a few months first. Whether I go to Chungmun clan or not, I need to be able to speak the language to inquire around. Fortunately, there were many merchants near the border of Byokra who spoke Yangnuo. 7 months later. I spent 7 months working at a pharmacy that mainly dealt with medicine, improving my fluency. I left the pharmacy owner, who was pleading with me to continue working, and ventured deeper into Byokra. Though I hadn't visited often, there were places I was familiar with since the time after forming the Palace of Marital Extremity. Similar to Yangnuo, where cultivators did not come forward openly, finding the Chungmun clan in Byokra was difficult. However, I traveled around the country, seeking out strange landscapes and areas with peculiar rumors. After such searching, I finally found a territory that seemed to be that of a cultivator clan. Few is this it. With my eyes, having reached the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, and seeing the energy of heaven and earth, I saw a barrier made of spiritual energy encircling an entire valley. I've found it, the territory of a cultivator clan. But I couldn't yet tell if this territory was that of the Chungmun clan. Even in Yangnuo, the Jin and Mackley clan had roots spread everywhere. Byokra likely has more than 2 cultivator clans, so I had to keep that in mind. I spent several days and nights in front of the barrier, waiting for someone to come out from inside. It was about 10 days into the wait. Finally, someone's coming out. A man in blue robes walked out of the barrier. Blue robes. Mackley clan cultivators usually wore blue long robes. I was a bit wary of the man due to that memory, but I approached him without showing it. "Brother, how are you?" How are you?" He received my greeting without showing any reaction upon seeing me. It's quite a surprise to see a fellow brother appear out of nowhere. Ha ha ha, if you were immortal, I would have immediately eliminated you for discovering the territory of a cultivator clan, but fortunately you are also a cultivator. Ha ha. Perhaps due to the consciousness I had obtained after ascending to 5 energies, or maybe because of the 5-element spiritual roots I had acquired. The man in blue robes approached me without hesitation and laughed heartily. By the way, are you also heading in the direction of the border, brother? I'm planning to attend the Spiritual Path Conference held this month. It seems you are also going that way, aren't you? Spiritual Path Conference. Brother. I'm sorry, but I'm not well informed. Could you tell me what that is? You don't know about the Spiritual Path Conference? The man in blue robes looked at me as if I were a country bumpkin. You came from some remote place to train, fellow Taoist. You don't know about the greatest exchange meeting held at the border between Yangyuo and Byokra, occurring every 2 years. It's a meeting where refining cultivators like us exchange numerous cultivation items, spiritual medicine, magic tools, techniques, and talismans. I have been so focused on training in the mountains that I am ignorant of worldly matters. I would appreciate it if you, brother, who are well-versed in such matters, could enlighten me a bit. You really do not know even the basic knowledge, fellow Taoist. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I buoyed his mood and gradually extracted information from him. The man's name was Byok Mun. He said he was from the Byok clan of Byokra, of one of the 3 great immortal clans, Chungmun clan, Byok clan, and Gongmyo clan. Well, I am a descendant of the Byok clan, but I'm more like a distant relative. That's why I hardly receive any support for cultivation, and I haven't had proper teachings. I've remained at only the early 4th star of Kai refining. I've understood the Bing, true formula, but to advance further. But you're still better off than cultivators like me without a proper clan. I might be better off than loose cultivators without a clan like you, but I still have my troubles. Some elders treat me like a pest that only consumes training resources. I played along with Byokmun's conversation, and when he started talking about true formulas and detailed cultivation knowledge, I quickly changed the subject to extract various information. Apparently, cultivators like me who train alone without being part of a clan are called loose cultivators. Such loose cultivators hide behind noble clans or powerful families of mortals, receiving support from them and getting supplies of spiritual herbs and elixirs needed for their cultivation. Or they would subcontract work from cultivator clans and help them in exchange for compensation. It seems that the Kai refining 1st star cultivators I saw operating in secret in Yangyuo belong to this category. I also learned about the basic structure of cultivator clans, the direct lineage of the clan, the main family, then the branches that extended from the main family, and the external members who work together with these branches. Up to here, they are basically treated as cultivator clans. Below this are subcontracted loose cultivators who take subcontracting work from the branches or external members and lead mortals. And then the imperial ancestors of a country who operate the state along with these subcontracted loose cultivators. They are treated almost like mortals. Royalty receives a lot of cultivation resources and generally has superior skills, but they are treated as such because they are heavily involved with mortals. Then, there are the loose cultivators who have no relation to cultivator clans. They are not greatly recognized by cultivator clans and are practically treated like mortals. They don't receive systematic teachings and often don't go beyond Kai refining 1st star, so most cultivator clans typically ignore them. Of course, a Taoist like you, judging by the size of your consciousness, seems to be around Kai refining 3rd or 4th star. Loose cultivators like you are an exception. With your level, you could easily join any cultivator clan as a subcontractor. Thank you for the compliment. I should also talk about the cultivation sects. In fact, until a few decades ago, there was a concept called cultivation sects in the world. Several cultivator clans came together to form cultivation sects, gathering disciples with good qualities from the entire continent and enjoying their prominence. But for some reason, One day they stopped accepting disciples and disappeared like the wind. The elders of the clan seem to know the reason, but they don't tell distant relatives like me. Ha ha. It seems that the Cultivation sects, a faction larger than cultivator clans, disappeared suddenly because more than 99% of them ascended through the Ascension Path, Dangxi and Hyang, to the Ascension Gate. Byokmun just wouldn't stop talking, and my ears were almost hurting. But since every piece of information he spouted was necessary for me, I just listened without saying a word. Being unable to speak freely within the clan due to the atmosphere that one must cultivate, Byokmun, having found someone like me who listened well, chattered endlessly like a fish in water. I'll have to part ways once we get to the Spiritual Path Conference. As grateful as I was for Byokmun's incessant talking, it was also a bit headache-inducing. By the way, regarding the realm of cultivators, is the realm of cultivators limited to the Kai building stage? Most clan heads of cultivator clans are known to be at the Kai building stage. Of course, I knew there were higher realms, but pretending to be an ignorant loose cultivator, I probed, and Byokmun, seizing the chance to show off his knowledge, started talking with shining eyes. Oh dear, oh dear. It seems that there are too many things fellow Taoist is ignorant of. Cultivators essentially practice to ascend to the heavens and become immortals, and achieve eternal life. These cultivators are primarily divided into three major realms, known as the three boundaries of cultivation. The Great Boundary is where one reaches the state of an immortal. The Middle Boundary is close to becoming an immortal, and the Minor Boundary is the beginning of transcending the mortal path. The 6 stages of the Minor Boundary: Kai Gathering, Kai Refining, letter F 996, Kai Building, Core Formation, Nascent Soul, and Heavenly Being. The 5 stages of the Middle Boundary: 4 pillars, Integration, Star Shattering, Star Rebirth, and Entering Nirvana. The Great Boundary is the stage of true immortals. I don't know much about it myself. Anyway, these are the higher cultivation stages. Kai Gathering. Isn't Kai Refining the lowest realm? But asking about this could reveal my identity, so I just nodded along in agreement. Also, it is said that when a cultivator of the Minor Boundary reaches the Middle Boundary, they ascend to a higher world, different from the world we live in. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's just a legend. To me, everything from the Middle Boundary seems like a legend or myth, and I believe the state of heavenly being in the Minor Boundary is the end of cultivation. It's just that myths get distorted over time, leading to exaggerated realms like the Middle Boundary and such. Ha ha ha. An exaggerated realm indeed. But I had no choice but to believe that the boundaries beyond the heavenly being stage actually exist. The cultivators who took my colleagues must have been at the level of heavenly being or higher. Their desperation to ascend to the higher realm must be because there are stages beyond the heavenly being. By the way, we're almost at Lingsu Mountain, where the Spirit Path Conference is held. What are you planning to buy at the conference? To buy. I've brought about 120 spirit stones to purchase good elixirs at the conference. For a Kai refining cultivator like me, it's a huge expense. Spirit stones. I wanted to ask about spirit stones. But I heard that spirit stones are treated as currency among cultivators, and not knowing this might make me suspicious, so I kept quiet. The next day, we arrived at the foot of Lingsu Mountain, located at the border between Yangyuo and Byokra. I felt a strange aura enveloping the entire mountain. Unlike the barriers I've seen around the cultivator clan's territories, the aura enveloping this mountain was invisible even to my enhanced vision. When I asked about it, Byokmun laughed heartily. You really are a rustic mountain hermit. Usually, big exchanges like this, or the main house of cultivator clans, are covered with formations far more profound than those protecting the minor territories of branch families or outsiders. They use the dragon vein itself as a power source, so it's completely integrated with the surrounding aura, making it hard to find even for cultivators with keen consciousness. So that's why I've never seen the main houses of the Jin clan and Makli clan, despite my extensive search. Cultivators' magical techniques are indeed remarkable. Let's go to the Spirit Path Conference together. Oh, wait. Since you didn't know about the conference, I suppose you don't have an invitation. An invitation? Yes. The Spirit Path Conference only issues invitations to cultivators, to prevent mortals from mingling in the cultivators' exchange meetings. But it's not a closed event, so if you pay 10 spirit stones, you can get an entrance ticket. You do have the spirit stones you brought, don't you? Spirit stones? I quickly thought about it, smiled slightly, and then spoke. Brother Bjok. Actually, I plan to meet a friend outside the Spirit Path Conference. He lives near Linksu Mountain. I'll meet him first, and then we can enter the conference together. Ha, is that so? See you later then. Bjokmun, looking forward to entering the conference, walked towards a direction at the mountain's base. Shortly after, a voice echoed from the void. Show your invitation or buy a ticket. Here it is. Bjokmun took out a small charm with a pattern from his pocket. The charm floated into the air, burned away, and left only the pattern which settled on the back of Bjokmun's hand. Welcome to the Spirit Path Conference. Flash! A little while later, the scenery around seemed to distort, and then Bjokmun's figure disappeared. TCH, I thought I could follow him in. I clicked my tongue, giving up on the plan to follow him inside. The owner of the voice seemed to have a consciousness similar to that of a late-stage Kai building cultivator, similar to Mackley Wangshin. Fortunately, traveling with Bjokmun over the past month, I had built a decent foundation of knowledge about the cultivation world, so it wasn't a total loss. After all, the exchange meeting will end eventually. I can find a cultivator from the Chungmun clan coming out of the formation inside and show them the recommendation letter. If it was a famous exchange meeting, cultivators from the Chungmun clan would surely be there in numbers, so I decided to wait nearby. That's when it happened. Flash. The void distorted, and a group of cultivators wearing blue robes emerged from a spot at the mountain's base. About 7 of them. Hyung. We acquired a lot of spirit stones at this Spirit Path Conference. Yes. Surely other clans' people also tried to disguise and buy our elixirs. They must acknowledge internally, our Mackley clan's elixir-making technique is the best. There was a smell of blood. The familiar clan's insignia was engraved on their clothes. Mackley clan, the imperial family of Yongyuo and the worst devilish clan. Especially this time, we brought blessing pills. It's bound to be popular. It's the great elixir that extends the life of Kai refining cultivators by 8 years. Hoo. When we return to our domain, we need to produce more elixirs. We have to press those who capture live mortals to bring more ingredients. The capturers have become picky lately. A branch member of Mackley clan was killed by some freak, and the Jin clan is aggressively trying to usurp the imperial throne of Yongyuo, making capturing difficult. TCH. I don't know who it is, but... I erased my presence using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, and inserted my consciousness stealthily to follow them using stealth techniques. When the cultivators of Mackley clan had moved a certain distance from Linksu Mountain, I released my stealth and approached one of the cultivators. You should have seen how much the ingredients assigned to me struggled last time. It's getting hard to procure fresh blood, so I had to. Buzz-wah! My sword cut off the head of the Mackley clan cultivator who had been spouting disgusting words. What? The Mackley clan cultivators, unable to grasp the situation, looked at me in panic. I don't know what's around Linksu Mountain, so I've been holding back. I gritted my teeth, glaring at these filthy devils. It's hard to listen to such disgusting nonsense anymore, worse than beasts. Thinking about it, even using a sword on these disgusting beings seemed like a waste. I sheathed my sword and spoke. Die, all of you? Boom. The gathered gang Kai in the air shattered the body of another Mackley clan cultivator who was hastily casting a spell. Bones and blood splattered everywhere. What? How dare you do this to people of the great Mackley clan? Severing vein saber method, mountain wind, swoosh. Gang Kai flew towards the head of a cultivator who was quickly speaking, faster than the wind. Boom! The cultivator seemed to have cast a defensive spell, but my Gang Kai completely shattered it, crushing the cultivator's head like a watermelon. In an instant, 3 out of 7 were dead. Damn. A cultivator who looks no more than a fourth-star Kai refining is attacking us alone. Let's show the power of the Mackley clan. A cultivator with a fifth-star Kai refining level of consciousness formed a spell. A strong yin energy emanated from the leader-like figure of this group of cultivators, forming a ring of yin energy that flew towards me. Ha ha ha. Anyone hit by Mackley clan's yin ring spell will see their flesh rot and eventually turn into a puddle of blood. Severing vein saber method, mountain presence. As I swung my hand upwards in a slicing motion, the yin ring was split in half, flying to both sides. Boom, boom. The yin rings that flew behind me hit several trees, which immediately rotted. Oh, oh. Severing mountain swordsmanship, landscape painting, I spread my hands, infusing Gang Kai into my fingertips. Then I danced wildly in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Sword marks were engraved everywhere, and the three cultivators, including the one who had thrown the yin rings at me, were torn apart. I slowly walked towards the last remaining cultivator of the Mackley clan. PL, please, spare me. I'll give you everything I have. Do your companions' corpses have any elixirs left? Yes, yes, they do. You must know how famous our Mackley clan is for our elixirs. Here, take them, all of it. His face pale and hands trembling, he took out a few elixirs from the corpses and his own pocket. What are the ingredients of these elixirs? This is the Kingawan, a skin beauty elixir made with a woman's arm, and it also has sanio grass and dog ginseng extract. Also, and this is... After listening to the ingredients of the elixirs, I asked the last remaining person. Explain the stage of Kai gathering. Kai gathering, you say? A cultivator who doesn't know. Oh, my mistake. I will explain. The Mackley clan cultivator quickly explained the Kai gathering stage. Those with spiritual nature must form a law-transforming danshan to receive the spiritual energy of heaven and earth before they can officially enter the Kai refining stage. This period of forming the law-transforming danshan is called the Kai gathering stage. In fact, this stage is so insignificant that it was not even called a stage. A few decades ago, Kai refining was not 14 stars, but included up to 15th star with the Kai gathering stage. It's only recently that they've been separated. It feels like the martial world's Chinji heart method. Just as martial arts also have a stage of activating the danshan with the Chinji heart method before accumulating internal energy. It seems cultivators also have a stage of creating a cultivation danshan before learning official cultivation methods. It's so insignificant that it barely even qualifies as a stage. Yes, that's right. A person with a heavenly spiritual roots can completely form the law transform in danshan in a day or two. Those who have the true spiritual roots take a month, and those with mixed spiritual roots who understand the cultivation methods well can do it in a year. But those with extremely poor talent can take 3 to 5 years, and since such dullards make up more than 80% of the cultivator population, it's a stage distinguished for such people. I see. Then, I asked the Mackley clan cultivator several questions I couldn't ask Byokmun to supplement my foundational knowledge of the cultivation world. After the interrogation, I pointed to the elixir boxes he had laid out on the ground. You have any elixirs that you concocted yourself? Yes, I do. Despite my appearance, I am a skilled alchemist, and I know over 80% of the formulas and elixir-making methods. If you spare me, which types of these elixirs have you personally consumed? I've tried them all. If you spare my life, I can tell you which elixir is suitable for you. I glared at the Mackley clan cultivator and asked one last question. Have you ever thought of anything while making elixirs? Yes, of course. I felt proud every time my skills improved while making elixirs. I see. I looked at the cultivator with a look of disgust and raised my hand. What? Why? I answered all your question. Pop, I couldn't stand to touch this brazen and filthy thing with my hand. I shot out Gang Kai and burst the cultivator's head open. Not even aware of what they have done. Is their thinking completely distorted? Even if one grows up as a member of a cultivator clan, living in a world different from that of mortals, how can one act like this towards fellow humans when they themselves have human flesh? After leaving the bodies of the Mackley clan on the road, I gathered up the elixirs they had collected. Then I found a sunny place, dug into the ground, and buried the elixirs one by one. Shortly after, several small mounds appeared in the sunny place. I buried you all like this because I couldn't find your bodies. May you find peace wherever you go. I recited a brief rite for the repose of their souls, then returned to where the bodies of the Mackley clan cultivators lay. I'll take these spirit stones of yours. Speak up if you have any complaints. As I rummaged through the cultivators' belongings, I found a pile of spirit stones. Having heard a rough estimate of the value of spirit stones from the last Mackley clan cultivator, I neatly stored the spirit stones in my possession. About 1,600 spirit stones entered my possession at once. It seems they made some money with elixirs made from grinding people. It was a valuable resource that helped in the training of cultivation methods and in the recovery of spiritual power. Then, shall I go to the Spirit Path Conference? I headed back towards Lingsu Mountain. Originally, I planned to wait for the cultivators of the Chingmun clan, but now I could just go inside and find them. I followed the direction Byok Mun had gone, feeling the space around me distort. In the midst of losing my sense of direction, a voice echoed from all around. Show your invitation or buy a ticket. I handed over 10 spirit stones, and then a burst of light flew through the distorted scenery and landed on the back of my hand. A 10-day ticket. You must leave after 10 days. How many days does the Spirit Path Conference last? It lasts for a total of 40 days, and it has been 20 days since it started. Please give me one more 10-day ticket. 10 spirit stones. I paid 10 more spirit stones and received a ticket allowing me to stay for a total of 20 days. Welcome to the Spirit Path Conference. Flash. The scenery became even more distorted, and I found myself inside the formation. Is this the Spirit Path Conference? I stepped inside. Translator notes, we finally get some information regarding the cultivation world. Judging by the 3 realms of cultivation, it seems this story is going to go on for quite the while, as expected of a Xianxia. P.S. I'm just going to be translating some plant names, as is unless they repeatedly show up like the yellow bamboo root, or are important. Chapter 39, Cultivator 3. Ha! I naturally let out a sigh of admiration as I looked around at the scenery. It was overwhelming. The exterior of the buildings and the people passing by felt similar to the bustling streets of Seokyeong City, but the essence of this place was entirely different. Through my awakened 5 energies converging to the origin vision, I could see the vast flows of heaven and earth energy rippling throughout the Spirit Path Conference. The flow of heaven and earth energy enveloped the entire land, and countless tiny spell runes moved to form a barrier. Moreover, buildings were also covered in layers of inscrutable spell runes and magic. Not only people and animals, but even the weeds on the streets were imbued with spiritual energy, and the buildings themselves exuded a majestic aura, those intense. Everywhere I looked, there were only cultivators with consciousness. After being accustomed to the markets of mortals without consciousness, being at a cultivators' exchange meeting felt strangely novel. In the markets of mortals, the place is chaotic due to countless humans unable to control their intent. However, at the cultivators' exchange, everyone tightly controlled their consciousness, making it difficult to discern their intents without close inspection. It felt spiritually much cleaner. I was momentarily taken aback by the sight, but I decided to look around and get a sense of the place. What do they sell at the cultivators' exchange meeting? While it felt spiritually different at first glance, it didn't seem much different from a luxurious downtown area. There were street vendors selling talismans, herb sellers with unfamiliar herbs, and tamers sitting with cages of strange beasts. Except for the value of the items and currency being incomparably higher than in the markets of mortals, it seemed quite similar. A pound of jasahong. Selling Zion spiritual plant? Special large storage artifacts. Only 7 left. As I passed by a stall selling fascinating spiritual herbs and restoratives, my eyes were drawn to a certain magic artifact. When the vendor selling items put his hand into a small pouch, he reached in all the way up to his shoulder. Fascinating. I unknowingly entered the store and looked at the storage magic artifacts. Excuse me, I'm just a country bumpkin, but how much can fit inside these storage artifacts? Hum. The cultivator vendor looked at me drowsily and chuckled. A hint of disdain was evident in his consciousness. The lowest performing storage artifact we sell here can hold about 1 stone, approximately 180 liters. He pointed to the small pouch as he spoke. That small thing could contain all my current belongings. Incredible. Just having that small pouch would vastly increase the types of poisons and hidden weapons I could carry. For someone who often used hidden weapons, it was a very tempting item. The shopkeeper, seemingly unimpressed by my appearance, gestured and said, "This one is 50 spirit stones. If you don't have money, don't block the shop, please move aside." How much is the most expensive one? I looked past the small storage artifacts to a more luxurious-looking one. To quickly draw out hidden weapons, that would be better. I pointed to a rosary-shaped bracelet and asked, "I like that one. I'll take it." "That's 300 spirit stones." Thud, I put down the bag containing spirit stones and selected 300 stones to give to the shop owner. He looked momentarily flustered, but soon changed his expression and handed over the storage artifact with a smooth smile. "Haha, sir, you indeed have a good eye. This storage bracelet is the best for storing items. Each of the 27 beads on this bracelet can hold 3 stones volume, secured with space manipulation." I roughly listened to the explanation and purchased the storage bracelet. As I infused energy into the storage bracelet on my wrist, it shone brightly and absorbed the items I designated. Touching the bracelet, the desired item immediately appeared. "Sir, our store has other fine magic artifacts as well." He showed me other artifacts, but except for the storage artifacts, most required a considerable amount of spiritual power. With my current lack of spiritual power, most are practically useless. Moreover, even if I bought mid to low-tier magic artifacts at the Kai refining level, most would be weaker than my sword gang. In short, they were just expensive luxuries to me. Sorry, but I don't see anything else I need." As I coughed and was about to leave, the shop owner inquired, "Well, if that's the case, are you looking for something specific? Not just magic artifacts, but talismans, elixirs? I have good connections with merchants in the Spirit Path Conference and can introduce you to some good shops." "Ah, do you perhaps sell books here? Oh, are you looking to purchase books on cultivation methods? Well, that and just general knowledge about the world of cultivation. Is there a bookstore that sells such books?" Upon hearing my question, the owner thought for a moment, then stepped out of the store and pointed down one of the streets in the Spirit Path Conference. "If you go down that street and turn right at the 3rd crossroad, you'll find Chengnan Bookstore. They sell a variety of books, and the owner, an old man, is well known for recommending the right books to his customers." "Oh, I see. Thank you. You're welcome. If you need anything else, please visit our store again." I left the magic tool store and headed for the bookstore the owner had mentioned, Chengnan Bookstore. The bookstore looked quite ordinary from the outside, almost unnoticeable. It felt strangely out of place in the atmosphere of the Spirit Path Conference. "Is the owner here?" Cough, cough, cough. As I opened the door, dust scattered around and I heard coughing from inside. "Ah, a customer. It's been a long time since I've had a visitor. Welcome. My name is Chengnan, the surname Eom." The person introducing himself as the owner, Mr. Eom, was an elderly man with a long beard that reached his waist. Mr. Eom's consciousness seemed to be around the level of Kai refining. But for some reason, the boundaries of his consciousness were blurry and hard to discern. I could feel the multiple writing brushes he wore on his chest blurring my vision. Sensing my gaze, Mr. Eom pointed to the brushes and said, "Ah, these. They're low-tier magic artifacts that obscure one's cultivation level. If you buy more than 5 books from this bookstore, you get one as a free gift. Somehow, I have a feeling you'll be taking one with you. Heh heh. Not bad. Anyway, I'd like to buy books on basic knowledge of the cultivation world, Kai gathering, and the cultivation methods for Kai refining cultivators." Good. I'll give you a gift in advance. Heh heh. Mr. Eam took off one of the brushes hanging on his chest and handed it to me, then went into the storeroom and came back with several books. Let's see. Here are basic knowledge of the cultivation world, etiquette for cultivators. 100 essential facts cultivators should know on the realms of cultivators. 4 basic knowledge books. Then, analysis of Kai gathering, which interprets Kai gathering, and myriad Kai gathering methods outlining optimal Kai gathering techniques for different types of spiritual roots. 2 books on Kai gathering. And finally, a total of 13 books on basic methods for Kai refining. He stacked 19 books in front of me, handed me 6 books on Kai gathering and basic knowledge, and then spread out the 13 books on Kai refining methods. Choose whichever you like from these 13. If we start with this great 5 elements world-changing technique. Mr. Eam laid out the basic cultivation books for me and gave a brief explanation. These are the types of books we have in Chengnan bookstore, but you should know, these basic cultivation books are all based on foundational principles. They explain the concepts of each level well, and the spiritual power is quite pure at the Kai refining stage, but they don't specialize in any particular field. For example, the basic cultivation methods of the Jin clan for Kai refining are specialized in fire and wind elements, and the basic cultivation methods of the Makli clan are specialized in yin, water, and wind elements. These 13 books are common basic methods that can be found in many other stores, not just mine. Of course, the reason they're so widespread is that they're straightforward and have pure spiritual power. Mr. Eam, do you have any methods you'd recommend? What type of spiritual root do you have? I possess 5 elements spiritual roots. Upon hearing this, Mr. Eam rummaged through his books and presented a cultivation book titled 5 Surpassing Paths to Cultivation. It contains 5 methods: Earth Surpassing Path, Water Surpassing Path, Fire Surpassing Path, Wood Surpassing Path, and Metal Surpassing Path, each suited to the corresponding spiritual root. Each one helps in gathering pure spiritual power, while they don't specialize, allowing you to use only the basic spells of Kai refining. If you master 2 or more of these methods, you'll benefit from a faster recovery of spiritual power. In the latter part of the cultivation book, apart from special abilities of Kai refining itself, there are some basic spells recorded, like defensive spells, telekinesis, concealment, consciousness spells, and telepathy. Then I'll take this. Since I had no knowledge of cultivation methods, I bought all the books without much thought. The total comes to 49 spirit stones. The price of these books is about the same as some common low-grade magic artifacts. Well, it makes sense since they contain cultivation methods up to the 14th star of Kai refining. I received the books from Mr. Eam, put them in my storage bracelet, and asked him a question. By the way, Mr. Eam, do you know where the cultivators of the Chengmun clan are staying during the Spirit Path Conference? I believe they often stay across the street for lodging. Actually, this is my first time setting up a shop at the Spirit Path Conference, so I'm not too sure. I used to wander around with my books. Oh, I see. I hope you find a good spot then. That's all right. To be honest, I opened this bookstore just for fun, not really to settle down. I find wandering around more enjoyable. Besides, I have another main occupation. That's good to hear. Thank you for the gift. Farewell. I bid farewell to Mr. Eam and left Chengnan bookstore, heading across the street as he had mentioned. On the way, I felt an odd sensation and looked back at Chengnan bookstore. Did that store owner really recommend me to a good bookstore? Mr. Eam's reaction didn't seem to match the story about being popular with many customers before. Perhaps they have some personal connections. While pondering this, I walked through the street where I could find lodging. Even though I know where to stay, the place is quite large. How am I going to find the people from the Chengmun clan? However, my concern was short-lived. The rascals from the Chengmun clan. Damn it, why are those foul-tempered people here? Look, just stay away from here so you don't get caught up in their trouble. Silently, I watched people avoiding the area and noticed a pair of man and woman walking towards my location from a distance. Both were dressed in dark black robes, exuding a strong fighting spirit as they walked. The man, especially, was a burly giant, wearing a storage artifact similar to mine on his wrist. It seems like something very unpleasant has happened. Their intent is predominantly red with anger. The man and woman from the Chungmun clan seem furious as their intent colored red with rage near their upper dantian. It was then. Thunk. Ha, this is a good purchase. A man in a red robe, stepping out from between the lodgings, bumped into the giant from the Chungmun clan. That attire, that seal. Is he from the Jin clan? The man from the Jin clan, seeing the giant, nodded as if to apologize, then tried to continue on his way. At that moment, the giant from the Chungmun clan grabbed the shoulder of the cultivator from the Jin clan. If you bump into someone, shouldn't you apologize? I did apologize. What is the problem? Are you making fun of me? What? Ga-ak. Suddenly, the giant exerted force on his grip and the cultivator from the Jin clan screamed and fell to his knees. You son of a... Click, click. Around the Jin clan cultivator, spiritual power of the fire element started to spread, and sparks began to fly off him. Will you not let go? HMPH. You bump into me, and instead of apologizing, you act all high and mighty. Even if you get beaten to death, you'll have no one to blame. You son of a bitch. If you do not let go of me and kneel down right now, I'll make sure you can never use that hand again. There's trouble. I don't know about the giant's character, but the cultivators from the Jin clan are known for their fiery temper and strong pride. The woman beside the giant spoke. Aren't you aware of the Spirit Path Conference's rules? Inside this area, the use of spells above Kai refining second star for attacks is prohibited. Also, causing injury to others is forbidden. So what? You're going to use the rules of the Spirit Path Conference to stop me. I'm saying, as long as you abide by attacks using spells above the limit and inflicting injuries rules, you can do whatever you want. One of our clan members used this to his advantage in a scuffle recently. The woman from the Chungmun clan spoke. At this, the giant grinned, and in an instant, a bright light burst from his fist, striking the cultivator from the Jin clan squarely in the face. Boom. The fire spell the Jin clan cultivator was about to use shattered, and he was sent flying over a distance of more than a meter. Elog, you bastard, how dare you injure me? Do you think you can leave the Spirit Path Conference unscathed after this? Noisy. The giant grumbled, thump. Thump approaching the Jin clan cultivator, the giant grabbed his collar and began to beat him with his luminous fist. Stop. This guy is breaking the rules of the Spirit Path Conference. However, no cultivator dared to intervene, as the Jin clan cultivator wasn't actually injured. I sensed a familiar energy emanating from the giant's fist. It's the same healing technique Sir Chang Ho used to fix my arm. Indeed, the giant was beating the Jin clan cultivator with a healing technique. Why isn't the Spirit Path Conference's protective barrier activating against a Kai refining second star level attack? Despite being the one getting hit, the Jin clan cultivator seemed too preoccupied to understand why the conference's rules weren't being enforced. Damn. Little if you bump into someone. Thump, 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 thump. The Jin clan cultivator, trying to escape the giant's grip, kept casting spells, but the blue light emanating from the giant's hand held him firmly in place. Tusk. Seems like the Jin clan cultivator met his match. It seems they were only paying attention to cultivators from certain regions, and not from others. He didn't know that the Chungmun clan is infamous for their foul temper. The other cultivators didn't interfere in this bizarre fight where one was beating the other while healing them. They just watched from a distance. Most onlookers appeared to be around the Kai refining third or fourth star. The giant from the Chungmun clan, and even the woman observing beside him, seemed to be at least Kai refining fifth star. Sir Chang Ho, the founder, is a generous and kind person. Seems like his clan's branch family members are a bit less so. I clicked my tongue watching the Chungmun clan giant mercilessly beat the Jin clan cultivator. Tusk. I don't particularly like the Jin clan, but seeing someone who was once on my side in a past life being beaten like this doesn't sit well with me. I approached the giant who was still beating the nearly unconscious Jin clan cultivator. "Excuse me, sir. It seems the Jin clan member has learned his lesson. Perhaps it's time to forgive him." "Huh, who are you to meddle in our affair?" "It does not matter who I am. Your behavior does not seem very honorable. Please let him go now." "Ha, if you don't like it, try to take this arrogant fool away from me. Let's see how strong a Kai refining third star like you is." I didn't need to use my hands. I used the essence of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts' ultimate technique, adjusting its power before shooting it at the giant. The giant clutched his head and let go of the Jin clan cultivator. I quickly went over to the latter, pressing on a point to alleviate his pain. "Are you all right?" "Who huff? Huug? Thank you, really, thank you." The Jin clan cultivator, appearing to be around Kai refining 4th to 5th star, tearfully thanked me. "I do not know who you are, but if you ever come to Yangyuo's Chiambuk City, I will repay this favor. Use this token to contact me when you are there. I must go now. Thank you for today." After thanking me, he handed me a token and hurriedly left, fearing that the giant might rise again to strike him. "How dare you harm us?" The woman from the Chungmun clan glared at me, blocking the giant. I smiled and spoke. "My technique is not like Kai refining spells, so I do not believe I have violated any Spirit Path Conference rules. And where exactly is the injury on that man?" "HMP. You seem to have cunningly skirted the rules using some consciousness technique. You will regret picking a fight with the Chungmun clan's descendants." Blue light also emanated from the woman's hand. It was the same healing technique used to beat the Jin clan cultivator. However, I swiftly cut through her technique with a hand chop. Her hand remained intact, but the blue light was severed in mid-air. What? Swish, I quickly approached her, extending 2 fingers and slowly thrusted towards her. "Defense." The Chungmun clanswoman, startled, hastily summoned a transparent barrier with a spell, but it shattered instantly as I released Gang Kai from my fingertips. I quickly dispersed the Gang Kai and pressed on a vital point on her body. Cough. The Chungmun clanswoman clutched the pressed point, groaning in pain and collapsing to the ground. "You use a healing technique to beat people. I'm also well-versed in the human body, knowing where to strike to heal and cause pain at the same time. Shall we try it?" "Eek, you. Hold on." Her face flushed with anger as she was about to cast a spell on me. The Chungmun clan's giant, stopping her, clutched his head and stood up. My apologies. I did not realize you were a senior with concealed cultivation." "Huh." As I wondered, he pointed to the brush at my waist and said, "I did not recognize it before, but that tool blurs your cultivation level, making it hard for me to perceive. Please forgive our rudeness." He bowed deeply, asking for forgiveness. I nodded, accepting his apology. Owareboni, formal way of referring to an older brother for a woman. "That man, no, that person. Didn't you see his strike just now? He dissipated our spells with a wave of his hand and nearly knocked me unconscious with his consciousness technique. He must be at least Kai refining 7th star." That's... I apologize for my rudeness as well." I felt awkward and scratched my head. What would they do if they knew I wasn't a Kai refining 7th star, but a martial artist without any spiritual power? It seems they mistook me for a high-level cultivator, disguising my cultivation with a tool. The reality is the opposite, though. "By the way, do you recognize this pattern?" I showed them the pattern of recommendation from Sir Changho on the back of my hand. The giant's eyes widened. "This is an external family recommendation token. It's at least from a main family elder or a public official level. We failed to recognize a distinguished person like yourself. Please forgive us for this as well. Luckily you know of it. Actually, I was looking for people from the Chungmun clan because of this. So, how do I join as an external member using this? Oh, it is simple. Come to our clan's territory, and receiving confirmation from just one elder-level senior will make you an external member immediately. Since it has come to this, we will escort you to our territory as soon as the Spirit Path Conference is over." Thank you. I nodded to the now humble Chungmun clan siblings and decided to find lodging nearby, waiting until the end of the Spirit Path Conference. 20 days passed, and the Spirit Path Conference ended. Guided by the Chungmun clan siblings, I arrived at the Chungmun clan's territory in Byokra. Chapter 40. Cultivator 4. Upon arriving at the Chungmun clan's territory, I received an entry plaque that allowed me to access the area and went to meet a Kai building elder. Chungmun Mok, the Kai building elder, checked my recommendation in his room and said, This is a recommendation from an elder or someone higher from the main clan. It seems you were recommended by one of the seniors who recently ascended. An ascended senior? Never mind that. It's not something you need to worry about. Anyway, the authenticity of your recommendation is confirmed, so we will accept you as an external member of the clan. He then asked for my name, age, nationality, and current cultivation level. My name is Seo Yoon Hyun, 30 years old. I was born in Lianshan city of Yongyuo and my current level. I have not yet learned any cultivation methods. You haven't learned any cultivation methods? Chungmun Mok's eyes flickered. His consciousness swept over mine. I had compressed my consciousness using the hidden consciousness technique, making it appear much smaller, roughly at the level of Kai refining first star. To have Kai refining first star level consciousness without learning any cultivation methods is remarkable. Is that why you were recommended? Do you know what type of spiritual root you possess? I am told it's 5 element spiritual roots. 5 element? His eyes flickered again. Your slightly exceptional consciousness seems to be the only reason you were recommended. Never mind. It's not my place to question the decisions of the main clan elders. I'll give you an identity token that symbolizes your status as an external member. I'll also arrange your residence. Following the elder, we headed to a location within the territory. Unlike the Makli clan or Jin clan, the Chungmun clan's territory was not established on flat land, but in a rugged mountainous area. Thus, the residences of the clan members are more like caves carved into the sides of mountain ravines than actual houses. Chungmun Mok led me to one such cave and, pointing to it, said, "This will be your residence from now on. You will live here, elevate your cultivation, perform assigned duties, and accumulate contributions for the clan. Once you've amassed enough contributions, you can use them to receive support from the clan. Additionally, external members and branch families receive basic cultivation resources from the clan once a month. The more missions you complete, and the higher your cultivation stage, the more resources you'll receive. Since you only have potential and lack not only spiritual energy, but also a law-transforming danshan, the basic support you'll receive will be." He rummaged in his robes and handed me a small box. Inside the box, there were tiny yellow bamboo ginseng roots, significantly smaller than the arm-sized ginseng I had dug up in Dangsunhyang. Judging by the size and appearance, these are cultivated ginseng, around 5 years old. Be content with this for now. Once you reach the Kai gathering stage and ascend to Kai refining, you can receive at least 1 spirit stone per month. Also, take these. I received 2 books from Chungmun Mok. One was a Kai gathering cultivation manual, and the other contained the clan's rules and regulations. Make sure to read the rulebook and use the Kai gathering manual to reach the Kai gathering stage. Since you're now a member of the clan, you must complete at least 4 mandatory missions a month. When you want to take on a mission, come to me, and I'll assign you tasks suitable for your level. Understood. After receiving the books and bidding farewell to the elder, I entered the cave. The cave was empty, but having been homeless in several past lives, I was more than satisfied with just having a roof and walls. I first opened the Kai gathering manual given by Chungmun Mok titled Chungmun Method of Kai Gathering, and the myriad Kai gathering methods I bought from Mr. Eom at the Spirit Path Conference. Soon after, I closed the Chungmun manual and set it aside. The manual seems too rudimentary for someone with 5 elements spiritual roots. Compared to the myriad Kai manual, the Chungmun method was less user-friendly and contained too many incomprehensible terms. In contrast, the myriad Kai manual included methods suitable for each spiritual root and detailed explanations about the Kai gathering stage. The process of creating a law-transforming Danshin is as follows. First, one must activate their inherent spiritual quality, transforming their Danshin to be optimized for that quality. Afterward, by gathering yin and yang energies and circulating them within the Danshin, it becomes imbued with primordial chaos energy, making it suitable to absorb the heaven and earth energy, thereby achieving the transformation into a law-transforming Danshin. However, there was a problem. Those with heavenly spiritual roots take a day, true spiritual roots take a month, mixed spiritual roots, the fast ones, take a year, the slow ones take 3 to 5 years. The more elements one possesses, the exponentially longer it takes to create a law-transforming Danshin. For those with a single spiritual quality, such as heavenly spiritual roots, it was enough to activate this one quality and optimize the Danshin, then gather yin and yang energies to purify it with primordial chaos energy. This could be achieved in just one day. However, cultivators with more than one spiritual quality had to activate and optimize their Danshin with the energies of these qualities, ensuring that the energies of the different qualities were perfectly and evenly distributed within the Danshin. For those with dual qualities, it was a matter of precisely balancing the two energies 50 to 50. But starting from triple qualities, it became exceedingly difficult to balance the energies. Thus, for those with the same true spiritual roots but 3 qualities, it would take 1 to 3 months just to balance these energies. And from the 4th and 5th qualities, it was said to be the beginning of hell. Yes, one must perfectly balance the concentrations of 5 different energies, and during the evolution of the Danshin with primordial chaos energy, these concentrations must not change at all. I understood the myriad gathering method and analysis of Kai gathering as I read, comprehending the stages of Kai gathering. After organizing my thoughts, I came to a conclusion. No problem at all. Uniformity of energies. That issue was completely resolved when I ascended to 5 energies converging to the origin, undergoing a complete transformation. The 5 qualities within me are now perfectly balanced. I just need to activate all the qualities and infuse them into the Danshin. The notion that I must never lose focus or allow any fluctuation in the uniformity of qualities during the evolution of the Danshin with primordial energy is meaningless to me. Compared to maintaining sword energy all day long, this isn't even difficult. Moreover, using the hidden consciousness technique gifted to me by the hunchback old man, my training speed should increase significantly, so time is not a concern for me. The last remaining issue was the spiritual energy needed for training. Rumble the 1,000 or so spirit stones brought by the Mockley clan cultivators were still there. I spread the spirit stones I had poured out from my storage bracelet all around the cave, savoring their aura. This should be enough. It seems I wouldn't have to worry about training. After estimating the energy of the spirit stones, I put them back into my storage bracelet and went to see the Chungmun clan elder to receive my mission. Since I had to complete at least 4 missions a month, I thought it would be better to get it over with all at once and train in peace. When I arrived, the Chungmun clan elder gave me a simple and somewhat trivial task. He said to go to a small village in the Jurungsung province of Byokra to verify if someone with spiritual qualities had appeared. I teamed up with a member of the Chungmun clan and headed to Jurungsung. I had wondered where cultivators kept finding new members, and now I know. I learned something I had been curious about while carrying out the mission with a member of the Chungmun clan. How do the cultivator clans continue to replenish their numbers over hundreds of years? Inbreeding among family members with spiritual roots would eventually lead to intensified genetic diseases, and it seemed unlikely that they would marry members of other clans they were competing with. However, it seemed that the cultivator clans tasked their branch families with missions like this one, sourcing people with spiritual qualities from all over the country. It was surprisingly easy to find people born with spiritual qualities, almost annoyingly so. In the village, children who claimed to see ghosts, or those who continuously saw illusions, or whose minds were not entirely sound, turned out to be individuals with spiritual qualities in over 80% of the cases. It appeared that going to villages with rumors of children seeing ghosts or peculiar children was a way to find individuals with spiritual qualities. Although determining the specific type of spiritual quality requires detailed verification, at least knowing whether someone possesses spiritual qualities or not is easy to discern. Those with spiritual qualities or open spiritual channels have their consciousness protruding outwards from the upper dantian, forming a circle around their brows. Although these individuals had not learned any cultivation methods, making their consciousness only about twice the size of their heads, it is still easy to recognize, especially when compared to ordinary mortals who let out their intent in the form of threads, not consciousness. That child must be the one said to see ghosts. A member of the Chengmun clan, who had teamed up with me, and at the first Star Kai refining stage, pointed out a child lying under a bridge in Miyol village, Jurungsung province. The child was bruised all over and seemed to be staring blankly at the flow of heaven and earth energy. He has an open spiritual channel. I observed the shape of the child's consciousness around his upper dantian, centered on his brow, and commented. The Chengmun cultivator nodded and descended under the bridge. The beggar family under the bridge seemed flustered by the sudden approach of someone in fine clothes, murmuring and getting up from their spot. What's the name of that child? Oh, my lord. This child's name is Gyusen. If he looked rudely at you, I apologize. That child, he claims to see ghosts. Just then, the child named Gyusen suddenly screamed and pointed at us. Wah! Monsters, monsters, wah! It seems like it is his first time seeing someone with our kind of consciousness, and his reaction was quite extreme. The face of the beggar family head contorted in anger. This damned child speaking nonsense to important people, bring a stick. We must teach him a lesson. It's fine. Instead, are you willing to sell this child to us? We'll pay a good price. Clink, the Chengmun member pulled out a purse full of money and handed it over. The head of the beggars looked at the purse, seemingly confused. What? Why would you want such a child? Enough. Are you selling or not? Prompted by the Chengmun member, the head of the beggars quickly grabbed the child and brought him over. Ah, yes, we'll sell. Ha, lucky you. You're going to wear fine clothes and eat better food. Go follow them. No, Daddy, no, they're not human. People let out thoughts like threads, but theirs are round. They must be monsters. This damned child still babbling about ghosts and monsters. Just follow them already. The beggar boy screamed in fear upon seeing our consciousness. The Chengmun member sighed and told me, You take the boy. I don't want to deal with this dirty kid. All right. Eventually, after being beaten a few times by his father, the boy was sold to us, and his father brandished the purse full of money with shining intent. Wah, wah, the boy cried out loud as I led him away. The Chengmun member, bothered by the noise, was about to use a spell to silence him, but I stopped him to let the boy cry his heart out. Cry. It's only fair given your situation. Unable to bear the boy's crying, the Chengmun member walked ahead quickly, increasing the distance between us, while I continued to hold the boy's hand, letting him cry. After the boy's voice became hoarse, I spoke to him in a calm voice. Don't worry. We are not monsters. Just think of us as people like you. Sniffle, sniffle. However, the boy's consciousness was clouded with a dark blue color, the color of sadness. Will I never see my mother and father again? Well, perhaps when you grow up, you can come back to visit. Once you learn cultivation methods and grow strong enough to take on missions, you might be able to return. What do you mean? You'll understand later. Don't worry, you'll see them again. Hearing my words, the sadness in Gyusen's consciousness seemed to lift slightly. I asked the Chengmun member walking ahead, What will happen to this child? First, he'll be taken to the clan for a talent assessment. If his talent is above true spiritual roots, he will be entrusted to external members of the clan for education. After learning the Kai gathering method, basic techniques, and rising to the level of Kai refining, he will be treated as an external member. However, if he has mixed spiritual roots, he will be given to the lower echelons of the clan. He'll study under them for a few years, go through Kai gathering, and once he reaches Kai refining, he will become part of the lower echelons. If he accumulates enough merit, he might even be promoted to an external member. What if we find someone with heavenly spiritual roots? If that happens, the main house will come personally to educate them. They will learn the main cultivation methods and then be married into the direct line of the main house, becoming a son-in-law. They will grow with the support of the main house's direct line. However, I've never encountered such a case in my life. I see. I gained a deeper understanding of how the cultivator clans replenish their ranks, as he explained. I soothed the child as we returned to the Chungmun clan's territory. After a thorough examination, the child was identified as having mixed spiritual roots and was to be adopted by a lower echelon member of the clan supported by a powerful family in Byokra. His life was bound to change significantly from before. I received another mission from the Chungmun clan elder and went off to find new candidates with spiritual roots, successfully completing 3 months' worth of missions. Although it took time to travel around Byokra, this mission involved tracking down rumors to their source and verifying whether individuals had opened spiritual channels. Bringing spiritual root holders back to the clan was treated as a separate mission, so I was not pressed for time. With about 3 months gained, I returned to my cave. Now, it's time to learn the Kai gathering method. After sealing the entrance of the cave with a wooden plank, I spread out 1,000 spirit stones and sat cross-legged in the center. The myriad Kai gathering method specific to those with 5 spiritual qualities, the 5 elements secret. I began to absorb the heaven and earth spiritual energy flowing around me, using the 5 elements secret, and activated the spiritual roots in my body according to the secret's instructions. Wung, remembering how the 5 elements spiritual energy harmoniously entered my body when I reached the 5 energies converging to the origin. I operated the 5 elements secrets, and the 5 elements spiritual energy began to be drawn into my danshan from the surrounding spiritual energy. Other cultivators would have focused all their effort at this stage to harmonize the spiritual energy, spending years just on this. My body's spiritual energy was already perfectly balanced, so simply pouring the existing energy into the danshan resulted in a perfectly harmonious concentration. In an instant, the danshan achieved perfect harmony of 5 elements. From there, I began to optimize the danshan for the 5 elements spiritual energy according to the secret's instructions. Time passed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And on the 5th day, I finally succeeded in optimizing the danshan for all 5 elements. Now I'm halfway there. The next step was to absorb yin and yang energies, circulate it, and transform it into primordial chaos energy, evolving the danshan to receive spiritual power. Typical cultivators with 5 spiritual qualities would take months or even years to absorb heaven and earth energy at this stage. But I was different. Wung, I drew spiritual energy directly from the 1,000 spirit stones around me. Kugagagugu. Clutching handfuls of spirit stones, I absorbed spiritual energy furiously. Due to being a 5 spiritual quality cultivator, the efficiency of energy absorption wasn't great, but I compensated with the sheer quantity of spirit stones. After absorbing a vast amount of spiritual energy, I divided it into yin and yang energies according to the 5 elements secret. Then, I circulated it in the danshan, mixing yin and yang energies to create primordial chaos energy. With this primordial chaos energy, I filled the danshan and began its evolution. Kugagagugu changes started occurring in the danshan. Despite the drastic changes trying to disturb the balance of the harmonized 5 elements spiritual energy, I maintained perfect balance with firm consciousness and allowed the primordial chaos energy to work. How long did I continue to push primordial chaos energy into the danshan using the 5 elements secret? Finally, flash. Light seemed to emanate from the danshan, and the primordial chaos energy no longer caused any further transformation. Instead, the danshan began to operate the primordial chaos energy on its own, refining and collecting it into pure spiritual power. Ha! I exhaled and operated the 5 elements spiritual power inside me. The 5 elements spiritual power moved at my will. Hua, as I inhaled, the heaven and earth energy naturally absorbed into me following my intent. I realized that I had achieved great success with the 5-element secret. The implication was clear. Now, I can ascend to the Kai refining stage. I opened my eyes, left the cave, and asked the mortals working in the Chungmun clan's territory about the current date. I learned that a month had passed since I started my closed-door cultivation. Since I've already completed 3 months' worth of missions, I have about 2 months left. I quickly decided. Returning to the cave, I took out the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation. With the remaining time, shall I try advancing to the first star of Kai refining? Translator notes, from my understanding, spiritual energy is the basic form of energy that exists in the world. It's the heaven and earth spiritual energy. Spiritual power is when the spiritual energy is transformed by the law-transforming Danshin into power that can be used and manipulated by a cultivator. Spiritual power can also be translated as law power, which explains the term law-transforming Danshin.